Hello, welcome to the Cube Pod, episode 100. I'm John Furrier with Dave Vellante. Dave,
Oh,
salute.
John, 100.
100,
Lucky
100th
number.
episode, 100 in
Congratulations.
the books,
Love
100
it.
Cube Pods. Cube Pod's getting a lot of traction as the number one enterprise podcast. We just at RSA Summit had multiple people said, saluting you, Dave, on the fly. I'm like, I do the salute too. Not as good as Dave, apparently. So Dave, just give me your form on your salute there. What is it? You
My
hold your
left-handed salute. It's
you-
left-handed. That's what everybody.
All
I don't
right.
know if
So,
that is that. I hope that's not like disrespectful
well, Elon had
in
the
any
salute,
way.
so I try not to salute
Yeah, but his salute
Elon.
was like in Hitler's. I mean, that's
100
like,
salutes, baby. We got it down. Fist pumps. 100 salutes, 100 episodes. Really, it's amazing. I think the enterprise is the hottest thing right now, hottest startup category by far. Every consumer AI company is essentially born in the enterprise cloud or on-prem. Anything to do with enterprise used to be kind of a very niche vertical. Not niche, it's massive, but it wasn't mainstream VC. It wasn't the young guns coming out of college. Agent is the new SaaS. SaaS middleware. Cloud is the new data layer. AI infrastructure at the semiconductor level is booming. We're going to hear a bunch of announcements next month on new capabilities from Broadcom, from NVIDIA, new operating systems frameworks. Cloud native, KubeCon, which we've been covering, is exploding. Everything that we've been covering for the past 15 years has been exploding in all categories. It's not just enterprise, it's the new consumer is enterprise cloud, cloud security. We just came back from RSA. This podcast is where we go deep. We kind of drop some nuggets of value. We can, best we can. So again, hey, enterprise and emerging tech, our thesis, computer science meets social science, extracting the signal from the noise. That is the Cube Pod. That is the Cube. That is the Cube community, the Cube network, the Cube marketplace that is emerging. It is up absolutely on fire. All the things we've been saying, most of it's coming true, if not 80% of what we've been speculating on, connecting the dots, all validated by this past week at RSAC, which is a security show, which is basically an AI horizontal show. Amazon earnings, Microsoft earnings, Meta earnings, the cloud roundups we've been doing, the Apple earnings, Intel's roadmap show, all pointers are looking at the enterprise as the bellwether category. If you look at Wall Street at the NYSE, when we're there, the options trading floor, you can't just, the bells are ringing. It's red, it's green, it's Tesla, it's NVIDIA, it's everything going on in tech now, whether it's now crossing over into policy. We had Amit on from Open Policy, even the AI for good, the AI governance, everything about AI is enterprise, everything about enterprise is consumer. The agent summits we've been doing, we had two of them. We had Scott Hebner's Cube Research. We had the agent geek conference. I call it the Alpha Geeks with Simon Chan's group. He's got an event on May 5th. Everything's pointing to the agents. Agents is the new SaaS. It's a 10 to 1, maybe 100x. Some people are saying, I think it's more like 10 to 15x size of SaaS. Some people in the Y Combinator community are saying that the agent layer, agent applications might be 100x bigger than the SaaS revolution. So, Dave, 100 podcasts in, I mean, looking back, it's been amazing. And the earnings continue to support our notion that the rich are getting richer, but diversity, it's not the old guard versus the incumbent startups. It's the startups growing and the big guys growing. I mean, the earnings are undeniable. I mean, even with the
yeah.
fluctuations with some of the geopolitical stuff, the performance of these companies, they're operating with a mindset, culture, and tech product led growth roadmap that's right in line. Everybody's winning with AI. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, the big takeaway from the cloud earnings that we saw from Microsoft, and Microsoft absolutely blew away its Azure number. I had them at like 28% growth. They came in at 35% growth, constant currency. It's interesting to see and of course the stock was up, very nicely on that news. It was interesting to see the Amazon reaction because Amazon had a great quarter, in my opinion, but their guidance was tepid. They lowered the low end range of the guide, which I thought was really smart because what a lot of companies are doing, John, is they're saying, okay, well, if recession and inflation, this is the guide. And if things are normal, then this is the guide. And I think, it's classic Jassy. Well, why are you doing that? Just like expand the range, so best case, worst case, like keep it simple, people. And so I thought that was actually clever, but the street inferred from that, bad news. But Amazon beat my estimates, AWS specifically. I had them at 16% growth. They came in at 17% growth. Evidently, the street had them at, above that. So I thought it was very, very strong. But what it says to me, John, is these Mag 7 companies, they have the ability to withstand these challenges. Apple earnings, I thought were interesting. Yeah, a lot of people freaked out because they're not seeing a super cycle for iPhone, but I thought services was like really strong. And I just think again, Apple and they gave kind of opaque guidance on services that freaked some people out. But I think these companies, whether it's Amazon, Google, AWS, Microsoft, Nvidia, all the challenges it's facing with regard to the China and the regulations, I just think they're so big. They have such strong cash flows. They have such good, strong management, such massive ecosystems, such operating leverage that they will figure out how to navigate through these problems. And they will continue to prop up, the economy. That's how I feel about it. That was my big takeaway from these earnings. And I got a lot of detail and a lot of data on it
Yeah,
that I'd
well,
love
I
to
want to
get
get your
into.
thoughts on Amazon versus Azure and the Google Cloud, because we were talking about Google Cloud next, them moving fast up. Azure numbers you mentioned surprised you in a different way. Amazon's operating profit up 20%. Okay, now today, well, first of all, there's a little filing that Jeff Bezos is going to liquidate about 4.7 billion worth of Amazon stock over the next few months through the end of May.
What
You
was the
look
number? 4.7 billion?
7 billion. So he
7 billion?
4.75
Yeah, that's
billion of
peanuts.
Amazon.
That's peanuts. That's like nothing.
25 million shares is still, he's
I
got to pay
know,
for
but
the
people sell for a lot of reasons. They buy for only
David
one.
gas fees for the
For the boat.
rockets. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the boat. The other filing that is being reported is Amazon's restructuring part of their $8 billion Anthropic investment, which was a convertible note, into stock in Q1, a $3.3 billion pre-tax gain that boosted the profits. So little bit of um, Amazon, playing the game with credits to profits to stock. So, if they're doing that, if they got revenue, if they gave away credits for equity and then got a $3 billion gain, I mean, damn,
I know.
damn.
I know, right? Yeah, good news for Anthropic.
And then Apple earnings were up, and then kind of related story, but kind of thread. We can come back to it. Apple plans to secure $19 billion plus in chips in the U.S. from TSMC's expanding operations in Arizona, aka Silicon Sands. Arizona is absolutely becoming like Texas with the solar and the energy there, a Silicon Valley like vibe, if you will. Vibe coding, vibe semiconductors. Dave, it's
Vibe code.
vibe.
Can I make a comment on that?
Yeah.
What's interesting is Lip Bhutan held an Intel like roadmap innovation day. No mention of ARM, no mention of Apple, no mention of Nvidia. But I actually am getting more positive on Intel finally. I think it's a bittersweet positive. What I mean by that is, look, they're not going to do a spin out apparently, and create a joint venture as I proposed in my bold plan to spin out and create a new venture, which would have secured, in my opinion, a U.S. headquartered advanced manufacturing foundry. Rather, what Lip Bhutan is going to do is dial down cost, which is very prudent. He's going to cut, and he's going to focus. And essentially, I think he's going to do very well in the not so advanced manufacturing silicon game. So it's another global foundries with greater capabilities, better, deeper technology roots, more volume than certainly global foundries, but they, I think, won't achieve their objective of becoming, a close second to TSMC. I think they're going to give that aspiration up, but they'll be a profitable and viable company. So I'll take that. That's better than going bankrupt, which is where they were headed. I'm disappointed that my bold plan is not going to get implemented, but I think it's exceedingly more viable
Well, I
than
mean, your bold
the path
plan
they were
is
going on.
basically is great analysis, and I'm sure that shaped Intel's kind of wake up call. I mean, basically, what you're saying is Intel had a wake up call, right? So, their Lip-Bu is strong leader, well respected. Even some of the people in the Intel capital, I call the Intel capital mafia, have been chirping to me behind the scenes like he's the real deal. People are excited that he's in charge. There's positive momentum around the practical realities of where Intel is. Like we've talked about the waves they've missed. I mean, Dave, they've missed what? How many waves did they miss that they blew it on? They missed Apple.
They
They missed
missed
the AI
Apple
wave.
slash
I mean, the AI wave was a big
smartphones.
miss. ARM. I mean, so many misses.
Supposedly, according to Morris Chang, um, Intel, because of my, Chip War, the book Chip War, and conventional wisdom said that Intel passed because they said the margins weren't good enough. And I believe there was some truth to that, by the way. Morris Chang claims that Intel actually put in a bid for the iPhone, and Apple rejected it because Intel's foundry was not set up to service third parties. It was a captive foundry. And so as a result, Apple passed. Some of that maybe makes sense, some of it doesn't. I'm like, okay, but they were using Intel chips for their laptops. So what's the difference? So I guess the difference is they were x86s when they were asking to make something unique. I suspect it was a combination of Intel's price was much higher, and they wouldn't meet Steve Jobs' margin requirement. And I think there's some validity to what Morris Chang supposedly said or wrote. I haven't read the book yet, but somebody was telling me that was in his new book, so I got to read that. But so they missed that. Whether or not they missed it for reasons Morris says or because of cost or their own hubris, they really, I mean, they missed out on cloud a little bit because AMD kind of beat them, right? I mean, you're right. I mean, think about it. They were dominant inside of AWS early on, and then all of a sudden, Graviton came in, and AMD became a really preferred alternative. So I don't know. And then they certainly missed, the next wave of advanced manufacturing for silicon. They missed AI. So I'm just, I believe that the U.S. should have a headquartered based firm. So here, play this out with me. So what happens when, it's not if, it's when China takes over Taiwan? China takes over Taiwan, then it owns, essentially the IP in TSM. So because people will say, well, TSM will have facilities in the U.S., but unless that IP comes over to the U.S., that's going to be locked inside of Taiwan. China's going to control that. And then what will happen in that instance is the U.S. will say, okay, and China will say, no chips for you, U.S. The U.S. will say, okay, we got to ramp up our U.S. manufacturing, and then you're going to create, zones, and China will be in the lead for some period of time. U.S. will constrict their sales of software like they have always, like EDA and other software and the like, and then you'll have very much a bifurcated market and not a global supply chain like we have today.
I mean, I don't think China's going to take over Taiwan. That's my take. I think the
Oh, I
U.S.
think it's a
has to.
lock.
Okay. Well, I mean, we'll see. I mean, it's speculation. I mean, right now the China issues are, and NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang has been talking about it. The U.S. has to get better. Because if you look at all the news that's on SiliconANGLE right now and in the zeitgeist, the AI generated AI metadata, the AI impact is so profound that the U.S. has to be there. The factories will take some time to ramp up, but it's going to look a lot different. I mean, if you look at even some of the successes with the coding assistants, I think the DeepSeek alternative, which was essentially driven by the CUDA alternative, has got Jensen's attention, which is why I think he went over there. But again, we'll see how that all plays out. But that's definitely a behind the scenes. I call it the Cold War of tech, and a lot of people in tech are trying to figure it out. And I can tell you right now, the scuttlebutt in Silicon Valley and New York is the money on the line right now is very dot-com bubble-ish in the sense of everyone's euphoric, but the reality is agents are happening. There are pockets of value creation, and I think the coding assistants are absolutely a part of it. For example, if you look at things like Cursor, Replit, what Amazon Q developers doing, just today announced more goodness. I saw Swami had a post out. That is expanding value, right? So the value proposition on revenue generation, unlike the dot-com bubble, is happening much faster. So the reason why I believe that this won't be a bubble pop like a pin to the bubble that's expanded the hype, I think it's a slow, let the leak of the balloon leak out slowly bubble. I think there will be some clear white spaces for startups. But as we said in the Cube pod many times, and this was validated by experts that came on the Cube at RSAC, where security is really the canary in the coal mine for all AI because they're red teaming models. I mean, everything around AI, if you look at it, is like semiconductor, a deep seek kind of innovation algorithmically, and then security. They get their hands in everything. They're all pointing to the fact that bigger companies can succeed and be more agile than before. Therefore, they can compete on the step function scale that AI brings. Sanjay Ponin talked about this when I interviewed him. He's a student of the industry. He's at the prime of his career as CEO of Cohesity, now Veritas. He's also seen these waves before. He was adamant that this ability to be agile for the big companies isn't the old formula of entrepreneurship, which is when we grew up, Dave, the little guy stays stealth, goes after the big guy's turf, eats their lunch, then their dinner, and they're out of business. The ones that don't transition, per John Chambers' edict, is out, right? So not now. I mean, Amazon, Google, Cloud, these are all big players that would be considered incumbents. Look at Dell AI Factory. Look at NVIDIA. Certainly, NVIDIA is the new guard as an incumbent. So I think that this is a whole different technical architecture revolution, business model revolution. I think business transformation is the new digital transformation. So that's what's all coming down because the economics got to be reset, the technology roadmaps have to be reset, and the replatforming of tech stacks is happening. And that's why at RSA, our thesis of the replatforming of security is happening. And that was the top theme this week. And I'll remember, I forget what year it was. It might have been 2012. I forget what year it was. You asked Pat Gelsinger, okay, when he was, I think, president at EMC, before he took the helm at VMware.
Is security a do-over?
Is security a do-over? And he said
yes.
He didn't even blink. It was like in RAN. It was like in it was in non-volatile memory at the top of his tongue. Yes, of course it's a do-over.
It was in cash.
And then he goes, okay, let's check that again. Yeah, but and then
it was definitely in
it was
cash.
Basically in cash, all steered, ready to go. But then remember, he's backed up. He kind of well, let's discuss this. And the reality is that you can't really do it over, but now it is.
But let me ask you a question.
Yeah,
I want to go back to something you said because you're so right. The point you made, John Chambers' point, is right on. How did he say it? There is no guarantee. He used a different phrase. But at any rate, he's talking about when he was at Wang. I mean, I grew up here. Prime, Wang, DG, Digital Equipment Corporation, Apollo. Those five, several others, but then Sun Microsystems. But take the East Coast mini computer companies for a second. Ken Olson, Unix is snake oil. Who needs a PC? All that stuff. They just got blindsided. And then look at Sun Microsystems. I mean, a great company. I mean, Sun was awesome. Okay. So what's different now? Is it the managements are better or smarter? They've learned. They've read more Crossing the Chasm books, or is it because there's the cloud, the internet, and more software? They can move faster. Infrastructure is code. Why do you think today's leaders aren't getting, disrupted? I mean, some are, but not to the degree that we used to see it. I mean, we used to see companies just virtually disappear, within a better part of a decade. Why do you think?
I mean, to me, it's very clear. The old guard, I worked at Hewlett Packard before it became HPE and split. Hewlett Packard Enterprise. It was a mini computer company. Yeah, it had test and measurement. They had medical, diversified business. When I joined the company, it was an $8 billion business. And something happened in that company called the laser printer. The laser printer was a direct attached peripheral device to the PC. Mac had laser writer. So, but what it really did was it rode the wave of PCs. PCs architecture was open. It was growing. It was a shift. It was one of the big shifts. Now the shift we're living in now is like the PC industry, the web, SaaS, cloud, all rolled into one. Okay, so what happened in that generation is that that wave was targeting the mini computers. You mentioned some of them: Wang, DEC,
Prime,
Prime,
DG,
DG. Hewlett Packard was in that
Apollo,
category. Hewlett Packard
yeah,
would have been out of business as a company, probably, if
except
it
for the
wasn't,
printers. Yeah,
except for
you're
the
right.
printer. And they had a personal computer that was proprietary because it was built for being a driver of their test and measurement equipment. So they had proprietary keyboards. I know that because I lived there, and did a lot of the product work there. And that revolution of the PC was agile, fast growing, and the systems guys had a completely different incompatible systems. And now what also fueled that was the fact that the OSI model, the Open Systems Interconnect, was a part of the standards revolution that came out of the early stages of the internet. Transport Control Protocol over the Internet Protocol was TCP/IP that created Cisco. Once people started having networks that were open, the rest of the stack was fine, but you had homogeneity in the layers 1 through 5. Okay, so you had proprietary systems, mini computers, open protocols, and a hardware computing platform that was based on open protocols and open productivity that was different functionality. That almost maps directly to today's value proposition. If you take what I just said and map that to today, you got open source software, you got protocols that are emerging on a faster pace than ever before. I think I had 4 conversations at RSAC around new protocols around models. You got models, apps, and infrastructure, 3 areas that are booming. So the reason why companies can move today is that the substrate of their platforms are now on the same position as the new incumbents, the new players, the new emerging brands. And the reason why Airbnb and Dropbox, no-name startups that came onto the cloud scene, reason why they were successful, they rode the disruptive enablement of cloud, which moved much faster. So the game is about speed, and speed inherently favors the people who can leverage that speed. So, okay, now let's go to the next
So
level.
internet and cloud.
So who has the data? The data and the workflow. So all these enterprise companies, which tend to move slower because of reasons like pre-existing software infrastructure, pre-existing security resilience, parameters and bar that's high, all these things make the enterprise inherently slower than greenfield things. Greenfield meaning new opportunities, no brownfield meaning existing. So you have startups that are coming into an enterprise market, which I said at the top of the podcast. They're inherently enterprise by default because it's the cloud. It's all open, all large scale, and the data favors the incumbent. Okay, if you look at large scale enterprises, even growing mid-sized enterprises that are living in IT from the 90s, having switches, firewalls, and network infrastructure, they're moving to the data layer. Zscaler, success. I interviewed another company that was doing a thing with healthcare. They're kicking ass because they just moved above the network layer. So you have protocols, you have infrastructure, you have all the applications, and now you have the agentic layer that can abstract away the capabilities of that brittle and old pre-existing. So that means any company that has data and workflows and scale on open standards with scalable protocols wins. And that means that's a startup, that's a big company. Now, if you've got customers, back to the coding assistance dot that we threw out there, the revenue matters, right? So if you go back to the mini computer days, imagine if they could just snap their fingers and turn that system into a PC, they would be riding that wave too, right? So, these new waves usually favor the incumbent because the structural shifts favor the new players, like the mini computer versus the PC, and all the software that enabled, all the wealth that was created out of TCP/IP, which was Cisco, 3Com, all those companies that created network protocols, which were firewalls, all that stuff, and the security stuff comes in. I mean, again, it's so obvious to me that this is happening. It's may not be obvious to the world and Wall Street, but that's why product-led growth is the big discussion over EPS on Wall Street right now. If you talk to all the top people, which I'm on the floor now, I'm talking to all the top financial analysts, they're all telling me, yeah, EPS, earnings sandbagging, and forecasting is BS, because they're used to that reporting. They're looking at product-led growth because revenue comes out of it. The revenue moves the stock price. Revenue moves market share. Revenue means customers. Customers are now working with the company that delivers the data, the workflows, and the scale, and ultimately the better product. So that's why the big companies, Dave, are now in play.
So
If you're culturally a slow big company, you're dead either way. I mean, it doesn't matter. You're a walking dead. So, if I'm investing right now, I'm looking at culture, management, what protocols they're writing on, what infrastructure is their software running on, and what do their tech stacks look like in this modern era. That has to factor in more complicated things like models. Where's the algorithmic innovation? Algorithmic innovation right now is going to be the hottest category as we go into the end of 2025 and into 2026. All AI is going to move quickly to low-hanging fruit use cases, to who has algorithmic scale. DeepSeek was the first shot across the bow on this in my mind. They weren't an innovation around a new chip. They were an innovation on how they did their software. And I think smart money right now is looking at this very carefully. And that's why when you look at the new chips coming out in the second half from Broadcom, NVIDIA, AMD, Intel, you're going to look for
Huawei,
massive gains in performance
Huawei.
and network performance, storage performance. And we're back to the holy trinity: storage, networking, and compute. So again, long answer, but it's good vibes. It's a cultural shift, vibe coding, vibe marketing, vibe podcasts like this. I mean, it's good
Well,
vibrations all
the
around.
interesting disruption now that we're gonna watch and see how Google navigates through it is it's this headline in my dead tree. I got the Financial Times here, John.
Yeah,
And
I can't get that. I got a paywall. You got the actual tree.
well, they charge an arm and a leg to get the online. I mean, it's like $1,000 a year.
I
And I'm
pay for
like,
The Economist because they posted our stuff on Digital Twins last year. George Gilbert wrote. So
Autonomous is good. So this headline: ad groups shift to AI chatbots poses threat to Google's search monopoly. I mean, that's part of the reason why Google's been pressured. Plus, the government's trying to break them up. Advertising groups and tech startups are seeking to help brands boost their presence and results from AI chatbots, marking a new era for online search. Companies such as Profound and BrandTech have developed software for monitoring how frequently brands are mentioned by AI-powered services such as ChatGPT, Claude, Google's overview features, and of course, one of our favorites, Perplexity. So, this is going to be really interesting to see. I don't know. Did you hear Chamath's rant on Google? I thought that was pretty good, actually. He's a good product guy. Did you hear what he said?
no, I did not.
I think it was right. He's like, because we're a Google shop, and it's like Google has this awkward way of inserting Gemini into the workspaces. It's just kind of pops up there. It's sort of in Docs. It's in Google Drive. It's just not a clean experience. His point was they should just step back and identify where the potential for monetization is, and then really elegantly insert it there with somebody who understands UX. But at any rate, what's your take on whether or not these upstarts like ChatGPT
Chamath's analysis is pretty pedestrian, in my opinion,
No, I
because
thought it
he
was
caters
good.
to more
Thought it
of the
was
main
good.
street. Well, Olin's got a bigger audience. They're going for we're the podcast
But wait,
version.
wait, 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 wait. So his main point, which I thought was a fair point, was the 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 person who's making the decision about how to insert Gemini into the Google stack really isn't a good product person. His argument was it's probably a junior person that hasn't really thought through what a great user experience is, because the user experience with Gemini in workspaces and Drive and Gmail, it is awkward, and search even is awkward. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. You never know
Yeah,
what to
but
expect.
Chamath really hasn't really built any products, right? So he's
That's
not a
not
pro.
true.
I mean,
Wasn't he a product guy at Facebook?
he was. I don't know. It's not how long he was there for. A couple months.
No way. Really?
He,
Was he only? Is he just bullshitting everybody? I mean, I don't know. I don't know the guy. You might know him.
he was a product manager at AOL. He went to Facebook. He didn't last long. Facebook. I mean, if the Facebook people who say they worked at Facebook. I mean, I like Chamath. I mean, he's got great analysis. Like I said, it's pedestrian because He is an insider. He sees a lot of things. He's not dumb. He's smart, but his comment about Gemini is completely off. I mean, like the Gemini product manager is not making decisions on workspaces. Workspaces is enabled by AI, so Gemini is input into workspaces. So anyone with product chops would know that. So he's just trying to look like he's smart about Google, and he's not. I mean, I don't know how much he knows about
He
Google.
was the head of platform and monetization and mobile and international. He was there for 4 years. So,
Yeah,
but anyway,
moving around. He claims
yeah,
famously
he
he was
moved around. You're
his
right. He was there one year here, one
his
year
claim to
there.
fame was he did the mobile growth, which I mean he didn't. I mean from what I know, it wasn't really his fingers on anything. He kind of popped around.
Anyway, I don't want to talk about Chamath. I'm sorry I even brought
Yeah.
him up.
No,
Screw
no,
him.
just it's people like him. That's why I'm just clarifying the difference
No, I
between
like him
Chamath
too. I
and
think
what
his
we do is
analysis is good.
they're more kind of mainstream mainstream tech. But if he's
But
going to get it,
his point resonated with me that I feel like the Gemini experience is awkward. I don't never know when it's going to. When I do a Google search, I don't know if it's going to like hit Gemini. Sometimes I ask it, like as I'm talking to Gemini. I find my experience in Gemini is great. I love the Gemini app. I don't like the way Gemini sometimes there and sometimes isn't there in search. So my question to you is, what do you think? Do you think they will be disrupted or will they cross the chasm in search?
Google will cross the chasm in search without a doubt. I mean, they already have way too much
Explain your
market share.
logic there, because you know
Well,
this
I mean,
space.
I have to go look at Shamatz's deeper analysis. I'm sure he had a different point of view. In this whole search area, there's so many areas that people can misconstrue. It depends on how you view it, right?
By the
So,
way, he didn't say they're not going to cross the chasm. He said they
no, no,
will if they can figure out the
I'm
monetization
just saying
points.
is that there's different angles on Google. Google is a complicated beast. Their earnings are awesome. They're kicking ass, but search, they're stuck in an innovator's dilemma at the same time. They have a core business. So, as you know, there's probably a lot of Game of Thrones going on inside Google around search specifically. But the trend towards AI that we covered at Google Next on the cloud side is an indicator, in my opinion, with its culture is. The culture of Google that Sundar is putting out there is make AI native in all products. Then those products then get integrated in either directly to the consumer consumption side or cloud service side. So in my case, the workspace would be have input from Gemini. So the product manager of Gemini isn't saying, hey, I want to build Gemini to make workspace better. They make Gemini to make Gemini better so that workspace can take its data and make it better. So it's a little bit of a nuanced point, but on search, Google search is already getting better. Now, OpenAI has got shopping experience that was in the news today. Rob Hof covered that on SiliconANGLE, and so you have competitors. Again, not to bring up the FTC lawsuit, but they have competition. But they have huge market share. So by default, unless they absolutely drink and are drunk every day and show up to the office and don't do any work, they might lose. But that's not the case. Google isn't going to be, not doing the work. So I think Google search will lose share in the short term, but won't lose position dominantly.
I agree with you, and I'll share something an observation about Microsoft. You think about Microsoft. We always talk about this in the Pod. How remember its stock went sideways for 10 years when and essentially when Ballmer was in charge, and but they survived because they had such great cash flow from their Office franchise and their operating systems. It's just threw off so much cash, they were able to figure it out. And they were able to miss things. And then, finally Satya comes in and says, well, let's just repoint the company,
Let me ask
change
you a
the
question.
culture and go.
Do you think
And
Microsoft
I just want to make a point. So I think Google will not take 10 years to figure it out is all I'm saying. And they've got the cash.
do you think Microsoft Bing search got better with OpenAI relationship or not? Or does
No,
it matter?
no,
No, it doesn't.
no, it didn't get better. And no, it doesn't matter.
Yusuf Mehdi, who runs that, is basically, I saw a news story, I can't forget who wrote it, but basically they're not moving the needle. Google, and that is because it's harder to be great at something when you're not great at it with AI. If you're already great at something, if you're already a legend, you've got to maintain legendary status by doing the work. Google is already legendary in search. So it's easier to stay ahead if you're ahead with AI than move the needle and massively have to have a breakthrough of epic proportion. So that's one. The second factor is OpenAI was moving faster than Microsoft across all metrics. New product introductions, more capabilities, a faster build out. I believe that the incumbent nature of Microsoft kind of makes them like the IBM of this generation. IBM had a generation where they stalled a little bit. Now IBM's back in the growth mode because they got better leadership with Arvind. But remember back when IBM was viewed as, the old school, slow, and everyone hated IBM. Larry Ellison used to use them as a pinata every day. And Steve Jobs used to use them as a pinata. Gates couldn't do it because they was in bed with IBM. Um, that's different. It takes a lot more from Microsoft Bing to be successful than Google being successful with AI. So it's a interesting, but it's complicated. Again,
So your point is,
OpenAI did not give Microsoft the lift on Bing that they
right,
thought they would get, and I
but your
blame
point is Google is really good at search, and they're going to figure out how to put AI into search, and they'll thrive.
Google's really good at everything, right? So like they just can't organize their marketing because they don't really do marketing. Google is poor at marketing and they're poor at customer support. I mean, ever try to get your Gmail password changed? I mean, I've lost a couple of email addresses. I'm like, where do you go? There's no customer support. But they've optimized on the tech. So if you look at Google Cloud, you look at Google Search, look at Waymo, look at Alphabet in general, it's a diversified business. And I will say the All In podcast actually did a phenomenal job of analyzing Alphabet. I thought Chamath, Sachs, and the team over there, no, the other guy, Freeberg, he crushed it with the analysis on Google Alphabet. I thought he hit a home
Well, he
run.
worked there, right? He was.
I don't know him very well. I mean, I know Jason and Chamath and Sachs well, but I don't know Freeberg. But he crushed the analysis. Alphabet is a diversified machine. I mean, they are kicking ass, and they're technical. They do the work. And now Google Search is already the leader, so they're already winning. They've won, I should say. That's why the government wants to break them up. So I think Google makes it big time. I think Amazon makes it big time. I think Microsoft Cloud makes up for any laggard activity on the product side that's been kind of legacy. I call the IBM effect, the old IBM effect. So I think Google Cloud, Azure Cloud kind of gets back in the game. You saw that with the numbers. And I think Google Cloud absolutely rises up into a better position and might even threaten Microsoft. So if Google Cloud continues to do what they're doing,
No,
they could come
no,
in
no.
faster.
Microsoft is so strong. You keep saying, one cube pod, you were joking. Microsoft's ADO is going to put Microsoft out of business. Microsoft is so freaking strong. And it's ironic to me that the government's trying to break up Google. To me, Microsoft is like the strongest company of all of them. I mean, they're
We'll
everywhere.
see.
They're
We'll
ubiquitous.
see.
And
We'll
and
see.
I will say this though, I am impressed with AWS's quarter. The stock was way down today. AWS has 39% operating margins. I mean, that is awesome. Compare that to Google. Google Cloud. Now remember, Google Cloud, half of Google Cloud's revenue, at least, maybe as high as 60%, is software from workspaces. They have like, under 20% operating margin. And so their operating margins are like disk drive gross margin. I mean, it's horrible. And so, and so AWS is extremely profitable. What's happening at Azure or at Microsoft is Azure is becoming a bigger and bigger component of its cloud, and it's dragging gross margin down. They don't really report operating margin. They do. You got to go into the 10 Qs. In the 10 Qs, I think they report Intelligent Cloud is like 42% operating margin. But remember, Intelligent Cloud includes all this other mumbo jumbo and on-prem stuff. So, typical Microsoft hiding the ball. The other thing I'll mention is everybody's excited about Azure growth. And I was excited too, because I had them at 28%. They ended up at 35%. But let's not forget what Microsoft did in the game they played with their definitions. They had all this bullshit in their definition. They had mobile, they had a bunch of security stuff, they had all this stuff that wasn't Azure in Azure. Okay. And they never reported Azure absolute revenues. And then the courts, the leaked documents from the Activision trial it told us what the real number was. It was like 34 billion over a 12-month period. So we were able to reverse engineer the numbers because they have calendar quarters and you have the fiscal quarters. They made some other comments about their market share in the cloud business and infrastructure, the Satya confidential memo. So we analyzed that and took their numbers down. I was already lower than everybody else. I took them down further. And then what Microsoft did last year is they took those old legacy segments out of Azure. They said, we're taking this out of Azure and we're replacing it with AI. Okay. So we're taking this old legacy business, which is in decline, and it's peaked, taking that out. So essentially, what does that do? That lowers the overall revenue, even though they never reported it. And we're going to insert AI, which remember at the time was probably like a 1 to 2% contribution of Azure revenue was from AI. Now it's up to 16%. So the effect was they lowered the absolute revenue that they never reported, and it jacked up their growth rates. And now Wall Street's all excited about it. Again, I'm excited too, but I'm excited with that caveat that they're playing games with the numbers with their little shell game. So let's not forget that. Whereas, AWS has been consistent since 2015 when they started reporting this stuff, or whenever they started reporting it.
Yeah,
So I give them props. And Google, sorry, one more thing. Google also does not report GCP. They just say things like, and Google Cloud Platform grew significantly faster than Google Cloud overall. All right, just friggin', it's a 12, 15, 20, it's going to be $28 billion business this year. Friggin' report it and report out Azure. Just be transparent and let's just see the data, for crying out loud. It's a big enough segment so that we can do an apples-to-apples comparison with AWS. And they're just waiting so they can, get to that critical mass. But I'll tell you this, sorry, I'm long-winded here. I think AWS has got to step up its SaaS game. It's because it's missing out on the biggest part of the TAM. Well, and it's going to be interesting to see how they play
Colleen Aubrey will find out how that's going. But I think, by the way, great rant. I think that's good to point out and keep an eye on Microsoft. Microsoft's game is well known by insiders, and you just pointed it out. When Microsoft's behind, they basically have a false narrative, and then they get the engineers working on it. They've always been a fast follower in almost everything that they do. I think what your point is, and I think if I was going to squint through the analysis and read the tea leaves on what you just said, is that I think Microsoft's sitting there saying we won't break that out until we can actually have apples to apples. Yeah. I don't think they have the apples to apples. And if you look at the past 5 years,
they have it. They're just lower.
Yeah, of course. Why would you show your cards if the market's not smart enough to ask the question? Okay, and then they don't have.
I'm wicked shiny here, John. I got a de-shine here. I'm killing the audience. How's that?
If you're listening, Dave just de-shined himself with the shining tool. I didn't put makeup. I got the cube jacket on now. Look at the past 5 years, Dave. I mean, I was just looking at some of the stock prices. I was talking to Brian Bauman this morning, NYC Wired. The ICE, which is the Intercontinental Exchange, they're up 95% over the past 5 years. ICE is the parent company to NYSE. They got services. If you look at Microsoft 5-year growth.
What is going on, true believers? I hope you're having a great morning. My name is Bleaves. We're here to talk about this crazy crypto world and the market. The market is dipping today. Why is it dipping? Because USA. I don't know. We're down $79 billion on the day, on a day when the Dow Jones is pumping. We're having that broad-based sell-off taking place right about now as we get to the next step. And the next step, by the way, is the FOMC meeting this afternoon and the potential rate cut that comes with it. Now, will that rate cut come? Insiders are saying that it is a lock right now that we're going to get a 25-point basis cut. After we get that 25 basis cut, we're going to get a pause to assess market conditions going forward. At least that's what we're being told from alleged insiders at this point. And whether that is or is not the case, I don't really know. But we will find out in pretty short order as this market continues to bottom out. And by the way, the one thing that you can rest assured, scam wicks are going to come and they are going to continue, because the entire purpose of the financial institutions that are engaging in trading in this market is to steal money from you to give to them. And the way that they do that is by buying, selling, and trading massive amounts of the cryptocurrency to create gigantic wicks that liquidate so many people up and down in futures trading. That is the sole purpose. The people with the most win the most. It's just economics at this point. So we're going to talk about all that and more. And we got some updates for some of the issues that have been going on a few ecosystems. And a surprising crypto is in the top 10 upcoming cryptos on Binance. Do you know which one that is? You know which one it is. You just don't believe me until you see it. This is not financial advice, but I'm always right.
It's your boy Bleed. Everybody listen up. Let's get it. I'm trying to put money in your pocket. That crypto wallet. That bing bada bing ching ching big profit. Even when the market sideways, I'm looking for ways to get paid. I'm checking my coins around breakfast, then again around bedtime. Bet this, it's not financial advice, but I'm always right. 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 I'm always right.
All right, guys, here we go. This is your day. This is the day. You chose this path, by the way. You chose crypto. And Amit says, Tima is on fire. I saw Tima had taken off last night. I already turned 1 Solana into like 40 Solana with Tima to begin with. So I was real happy with my position. But guess what? Continue to happen over here. It was this. It absolutely broke out. And by the way, what I tell you it was going to do, I told you it was going to do 2.9 cents. What did it do? 2.9 cents. That was the next impulse move. And it was based on the market cap. And it was based on the market cap going up to this level. And it can continue to go. It might still continue on. And it might continue breaking out. But it had a crazy run up about 4x. And by the way, if I had left in, I want to say that this would now be about 130 Solana. So but I don't care. Like I didn't miss out on anything because I won at the Solana war to begin with. So who cares? You know what I mean? Did I miss the top? Yeah, but I was only transactional down here at the bottom to get up into this range right here. And when that happened, I was golden, baby. And actually, I was over here at the end of November where it was way down here. And I caught this little ride up here. So if you stayed in and you witnessed this big breakout, then shout out to you because you, my friend, got very lucky. Market cap now 28 million. So shout out to everybody who's making it. Make sure you take your initial investment out. Don't get wrecked over some kind of wild pie in the sky ideology. Speaking of wild pie in the sky ideologies, GemPad. GemPad is the criminal organization that is stealing money from MSI holders right now. But you know, they're not. Hello, everyone. Our team, let me take you back here on a journey. And it was just yesterday where they were 32 different cryptos on GemPad were hacked and the liquidity was stolen. Now, that flashes us forward to this. Our team is still in shock from the events that unfolded yesterday. We take safety very seriously, and we never imagined something like this could happen. GemPad's locked contracts have been thoroughly audited by two of the most reputable companies in the space, Cyberscope and Solid Proof, both confirming that there were no risks on the contract. Now, who guarantees these, right? So here's the thing, and this would be the question that I would have. Number one, does GemPad guarantee their security? And if they do, did they or do they have the funds in order to compensate each one of the projects. 27, I'm sorry, it wasn't 32, it was 27 projects that were affected, but do they have the funds to fix the 27 projects for a total of $2.2 million? And that's the question that we would be asking. So and here are the audits, by the way. Cyberscope, here's the audit on GitHub, and here's the audit on Solid Proofs. Thanks to the swift intervention of a trusted cybersecurity company that reached out to us yesterday, the issue in the contract was identified very quickly, ensuring no further projects on GemPad are at risk. Out of over 3,000 projects launched or locked through us, 27 were affected yesterday. While any impact is deeply regrettable and should never happen, this is where it gets interesting. While any impact is deeply regrettable and should never happen, we are relieved the damages were not more extensive and proud of how fast our team acted to mitigate the issue. Both things can be true. Today, we will be holding an internal team meeting to finalize a plan for supporting the affected projects. Our top priority is recovering the stolen funds, and we are working closely with our partners and specialized cybersecurity firms who are already on the case. We deeply appreciate your understanding and support during this challenging time. Now, here's the thing. What are they doing? Number one, if you just, as a company, said, hey, we're trusted, well, you just got scammed by something. So are you trusted, or are you a scammer like the other people? Because if you're trusted, then you owe 27 projects their liquidity back. Nothing more. You don't owe them a profit. You don't owe them anything other than just making sure that what you said was secure. Now, GemPad should be taking care of this issue, and then after that, they should be going after Cyberscope or Solid Proof. And if they can't go after Cyberscope or Solid Proof because neither one of those guarantees their work, then we have an even bigger problem. Thus, this is why the SEC and the CFTC are so necessary in the crypto space, because guess what? You've got this company out here who's taking thousands of projects and allegedly locking the liquidity of these projects, but not actually doing it because it's hackable. And then they're blaming it on the audits of two different companies that provide no guarantees if that's the case. If it is the case and there are guarantees, then take care of it and handle it over the next 24 to 48 hours or 72 hours, because why would you, quote unquote, kill 27 different projects? Even if 2.4 million cryptos is way too many. I hope everybody understands what I'm saying here, because it's ridiculous that this company is not doing something, or at least there's nothing that's been done so far. Now, to get into this, MSI, of course, shared this. They shared this, and of course, it's not in North Korea. It couldn't be in North Korea because it wouldn't be allowed to transact, do business. But it was discussion last night. So Pablo basically said, I'm going to take care of it one way or another, right? The liquidity will be a question, and they're going to build it back. MSI, I believe at this point, I'm telling you something that I think is true, that will probably be fleshed out over the next few hours, but that MSI is going to relaunch on Solana so that there are no problems with the liquidity or with transaction fees on the Ethereum network. So effectively at this point, and again, there's been a lot of people since the announcements were coming out that started selling off, and then they started buying it back, and then it started selling back down because, you know, they whatever reason, right? So that is, and by the way, basically Pablo said, you know what, hold on to your tokens, because don't trade them and don't sell them. But, you know, you can't speak to everybody. So you're getting the small people selling off, which may have been some pretty big amounts and stuff like that. And you can even see right here, 10,000 in liquidity was removed at this point right here. I think that was from Pablo trying to protect what little there was left to make sure that there was something for that relaunch. So the relaunch is probably going to take place on Solana over the next couple days. I don't know how the token replacement is going to go or anything like that. Now, I did speak in their space last night, and I said that, you know, this is crypto, and sometimes bad things will happen. And, you know, GemPad apparently is going to replace the liquidity. Like, apparently they are going to replace it. But what needs to happen at this point is it needs to be converted over to a different blockchain while the opportunity exists for itself, get a new contract, whatever. So you're going to see a big move from the team over the next couple of days as they relaunch on another blockchain. But Pablo's telling you, just don't sell, just hold on to it because I'm going to swap it out for something new. Well, there's a bunch of people who we're not going to have to do that. They took huge losses, which, by the way, mitigates some of the problem. I hate to say, but if you G'd out, you G'd out. You know what I mean? Anyway, so what I said was, they don't owe you equality of outcome. You're still a trader. You still have to recognize the signs and the symbols and make decisions for yourself and stuff like that. They owe you an equal opportunity. And Leo, the question was, what about tokens on exchanges? I don't know the answer to that yet. We're going to find out what the answer to that is very, very shortly. At this point, I'm not speaking for the team as a team member or anything. I am just telling you what I heard. And that, again, don't sell your tokens because you're going to be able to, you will definitely, if nothing else, be able to swap them for the new project. That's the important part. You're going to be able to swap them for the new project. And GemPad is supposed to replace the liquidity, and that liquidity would go into the new project. So you stand to benefit greatly. And a launch on a new blockchain, especially something like Solana, might actually be for the best. Maybe moving away from Ethereum was good after all. So we'll see whether or not it is and it happens. But as you can see right here from the chart, you got your crazy scam wicks over here. This is on the 15-minute. You can see it just kind of getting wild over here. But so that's what's going on with it. And it'll be tied to ticker trending. Nothing is going to change. They actually had, and here's the funny thing. Pablo actually had a pretty large announcement getting ready to come out to begin with. And, it was actually working. Something's been working in the pipeline for a while. And now it's, since it's not, since things have changed a little bit. Yeah, hold on to the MSI on ETH. Should be we're just basically going to swap it to Solana, I believe, is the play. I'm not sure. Look, I'm not entirely sure. As soon as I know, I'll be putting out something so that everybody knows what to do. But yeah, so he had a big announcement getting ready, which he thought was going to pump the shit out of the chart. You never know, right? But here's the thing. If all of this happens and it goes on a new chain and the launch goes and like if everything gets done over there, then you probably are going to get a significant pump out of MSI. So don't move off of the bag yet. And if you did already, sorry. You know what I mean? And matter of fact, I think that was discussed last night as well, but he said, no, I want to keep MSI. Like that's, kind of his mantra. So I think that's what he wants to do. But let's move on now. When I get more information, I will give you more information. Now, Binance Square Crypto Daily put out the top 10 innovative crypto projects to watch in 2025. The number one project was Veracity. With a 250% increase, Veracity's VRA token is one of the hottest altcoins since Bitcoin's recent surge to new all-time highs. Known for its patented ad fraud detection technology, Veracity leverages blockchain and AI to address a multi-billion-dollar annual issue that continues to plague the digital advertising industry. Founded in 2017, Veracity is a time-tested crypto project that has weathered the storm of the industry's most turbulent market periods. But that's not the rest of it. With legacy projects like Ripple and Lumen soaring back into the spotlight, Veracity should undoubtedly be on every trader's list in the coming months. The next one up, DevE. DevE is number 2 on the top 10 altcoins in crypto for Binance Square. DevE is a blockchain ecosystem built to make blockchain simple, scalable, and impactful for everyone. It starts with the Dev Exchange, a fast, low-fee platform that makes trading digital assets easy and rewarding for everyday users while setting a new benchmark for tokenizing real-world assets. At its core, DevE's blockchain sharding technology delivers infinite scalability and instant settlement, ensuring speed, reliability, and congestion-free transactions. This innovation removes friction, enabling global regulatory compliance. Beyond trading, DevE empowers institutions and enterprises with state-level compliant infrastructure to build scalable solutions in finance, carbon markets, and beyond. Now, what does that mean? So here's what it means. It's actually very, very simple here. It removes and it includes state-level compliant infrastructure. And here's the thing. What this basically means is, let's just say that I'm in the USA, right? And I'm a business and I'm trying to do business in Russia. If the laws in Russia do not allow for payment in a specific way, then the dev blockchain will not allow that, so that you as a business will safely always be in compliance with the laws of your land and their land, and you can transact according to whatever the laws are. That way it will protect your company from any future litigation or the possibility of that litigation by making sure that you don't do illicit or illegal transactions in cross-border payments or anything like that. As well, it's not in the article, but it should also be noted, HIPAA compliance is programmed into this blockchain as well. So in the medical field, if you have something going on in medical in some way, and you're wanting to transact and trade data across the blockchain for medical purposes, then you do have the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, and you do have to be in compliance with that in the information that you share with people and the disclosures that you have for sharing that data to any other company or any other entity, and it is fully compliant with that as well. It's making your job and your life simpler, and that's what it's all about. And remember, I told you before that there is a big time partner that that's in the pipeline, led by Ray Quintana, a UN delegate and top US venture fund leader, alongside industry veterans, including an ex-BlackRock leadership. Whether you're trading assets, building solutions, or exchanging value, Devi makes it simple, secure, and accessible for everyone. Let's go back to this one more time. Ray Quintana was a UN delegate and top US venture fund leader, and Duncan Murray was former leadership at BlackRock. These are the guys leading this project. What do you think is going to happen? This thing is going to explode. And I tell you that all the time. And of course, when you look at the price, I was telling you that at 12 cents. I was telling you that at 50 cents. I was telling you that at 25 cents. I was telling you that at 30 cents. Right now, it's trading at 75 cents. And that's just a dip that it had. And look, I don't know if we're done right now. By the way, if you're looking at it and you're looking for an entry, I'm not sure. Let me do this right here, right there, and then there. I would fully expect a test of this channel, except if you notice on this that sometimes you get up to the heart line and then you come back down like you did right there. Sometimes you have the heart line right here. You come up, you dangle around that heart line and then you pop, right? So it is entirely possible that, because we've hit that heart line a couple times, we bounced above it, we're coming back down. It could be that we just kind of wicked in that heart line and we're headed back up. We might come back down here, another test down here, another breakout here. Like there's anything that could happen, but the way this is playing out right now, I would expect that this thing is going to continue up to the top of this range before breaking out. And if it breaks out, all bets are off. And then you can start looking at that all-time high over here at $2.25. But I think it's going to explode past that very, very soon. Now, I don't know when I say very, very soon if it's going to be December, because it's the end of the year. I can't imagine that a large company is waiting until Christmas time to make an announcement for limited impact, I would say. I would imagine that any announcement that would be in the pipeline or that would be forthcoming would probably be in January. That is a guess from me. It could happen any moment. I don't know. But when it does, I do think that Devi starts to hit that stratosphere. All right. So I might end up being wrong, by the way. It may not be $9.67 by the end of the year at this point. I don't know. If they make an announcement, then not only is it going to be $9.67, I think it's going to go to $50. Like, I think it's like once they announce who this partner is, if I'm right, this thing is just going to absolutely break out. And by the way, when you start looking around, you start looking at things like Ondo. Like, I think that what you're going to look at is you're going to look at this thing doing like Ondo. Ondo launched over here at 8 cents. It's now at 2.85. Okay. So, I think that this is the type of, life-changing shit you're about to witness. You start off over here, you end up over here, and that's a 10x from where you are. I think that 10x is coming over the next little while for Devi. So on that list, along with that is AI Companions. It's one of the most exciting crypto projects, merges AI, VR, and AR. Also, Cyrus, a trailblazer in the data economy. Then you have Seek. It's becoming the digital world continues to evolve. Seek is at the forefront, connecting communities and unlocking opportunities for creators and consumers alike. The platform is revolutionizing how content is created, owned, and monetized by empowering creators and building a sustainable digital economy. With the rise of the creator economy, Seek provides tools and infrastructure for creators to take control of their work, including a seamless way to distribute and sell across platforms like Meta, Apple, and Microsoft. Also, Best Change is a cryptocurrency exchanger directory. It's a leading platform where crypto exchange service connects with consumers. Let's go check this out, by the way. I meant to go see this. This is Best Change that we're looking at right now. And buy and sell crypto and fiat, best exchange rate and how to exchange. And then here are the places right now, and it gives you who you can exchange your crypto for money with. So yeah, that seems like it's pretty important. Tradu is a platform eliminating hidden fees with a clear pricing model and versatile trading tools to suit every strategy. And it supports over 50 or over 40 crypto pairs. Also, you have Torum. Then you have Injective, which is, gaming. I think it's a roll up of some sort. Injective is the first and only blockchain built for finance. It is an open interoperability layer. And by the way, maybe I'm thinking of Immutable. Sorry, I was thinking of Immutable. Injective is another one, and sub-second block times while sustaining enormous throughput, 25,000 plus transactions. It's not the 8 million that Devi supports, but that's still a lot, and it's more than almost every other blockchain not named Devi. So that's a pretty big one. And by the way, when you come over here and, again, not to toot the horn of, Devi too much, but Injective, $2.7 billion market cap. So where does Devi fit in? You know what I mean? So I would get a sense here that, something like that would be the look. I think Devi is $1 billion market cap. Also, Fetch AI. Let's do Fetch. 3.9 billion market cap. I mean, again, it's these are the things that I think are going to happen over here for Devi. It's on the list with a lot of these big time players, and then you have Sun right here, and it already has a $290 million market cap. And this, by the way, is the new pump.fun for the Tron network. So, there's a lot going on out here in all of these ecosystems. So check out Devi today. Let's get into the bigger news. Crypto analysts now predicting a wave of crypto ETFs, XRP for sure, Litecoin, HBAR, Solana. And this is Eric Balkunas. He says, we expect a wave of cryptocurrency ETFs next year, but not all at once. First out is likely the Bitcoin plus ETH combos, then probably Litecoin because it's a fork of Bitcoin, then HBAR, which was not labeled a security, and then XRP and Solana would be coming after that. So it looks like we've got a huge opportunity right here. Guys, the crypto bull market is about to start. It's about to get absolutely bonkers and crazy. Guys, make sure you hit the like button on the way in. We only have 86 people here today. Did I fart or something? What is going on? Anyway, XRP whales are now going on a buying spree, which I've been telling you for days now that, the whales just continue to keep accumulating. And we got an attempt yesterday at a breakout, but, USA, just trying to make some profit, bro. Just trying to make some profit. You know what I mean? Just trying to get a little bit of ching, 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 ching. Whatever, fuck, they say. But we had a nice little recovery. We had a nice little bounce, probably going to continue, by the way. But there is one piece to this that might be a little bit nerve-shattering, nerve-wracking to this right here, and that's this. Arthur Hayes is predicting crypto will see a harrowing dump around Trump's inauguration. Arthur Hayes expects crypto markets to experience a harrowing dump around Trump's inauguration day. Hayes says crypto investors' expectation for the upcoming policy changes are far from reality. The gap between the crypto market's high expectations of the upcoming administration and reality will cause a major crypto sell-off upon Trump's inauguration. Hayes, who now manages a family office named Maelstrom. And by the way, this makes perfect sense when you just consider what these markets do, and they work counter to your narratives. And that's when they gouge you, and that's when you get scam wicks, which I keep saying we've got to avoid those, right? So there is a real and distinct possibility that over the next little while, we see something like that happen. Like we see some kind of just absolute falling off the edge of a cliff sort of dump. And by the way, if they're looking to say, well, yeah, I mean, it happened back in 2020 or something like that. I mean, because I've seen people who have been using 3-year cycles as a 4-year cycle, just ridiculous, dumb stuff, right? So I see those. So it could be. What he says is this. The market will instantly wake up to the reality that Trump has had a best 1 year to enact and any policy changes on or around January 20th. This realization will lead to a vicious sell-off and other Trump 2.0 equity trades. The crypto market is still amid an extended price rally triggered by pro-crypto candidate Trump's win in November. This is, and by the way, I don't know who wrote this. Danny Park. Danny Park is an idiot. I mean, guys, look. They're telling you that the reason that the market is pumping is because Donald Trump won the November election. Joe Biden won the 2020 election and crypto pumped even harder than it's pumping right now. It has nothing to do with the presidency. Presidency just represents an opportunity for greater upside or greater downside in the amount of pump. And I don't think smart people understand it. Smart people, and by the way, the smart people are the ones that are creating the scam wicks and taking your money from you anyway, obviously. And then the dumbs, they're just saying stuff like, when Donald Trump wins, it's because they make the crypto then go up to 100 million, billion, trillion. Because they're idiots, right? It has nothing to do with Donald Trump. However, if he does good things for the crypto space, it goes up more. Trump's win has raised anticipation for a drastic change in crypto regulation. Now, is it being priced in already? Everything gets priced into markets. Like people are just not clearly thinking this shit through is all I'm saying. Hayes said most elected legislators start campaigning at the end of 2025. Why did you and your friends farm mouth on pump fun? I haven't farmed any mouth on pump. I don't know what that, I have no idea what this fucking means. All right. By the way, I am a holder of mouth token. Just because I don't talk about it doesn't mean that I don't have mouth token. But I think that it has to reach like radium bonding, and that's like 92,000 market cap. So I have no idea, what's going to happen over there. And I, look, I'm just a holder, so I have no idea what, not making enough here. No, I'm making plenty here, but I'm not farming anything. And if you can't look in the crypto wallets down below and you can't see what I am and am not doing, you're stupid and you don't know how to do crypto. And that's how you sound in my head if you just come in and say dumb shit. Anyway, if you want to, you track everything I do down below. Ta-da. It's pretty simple, actually. So, nonetheless, Hayes did foresee a possibility that his strategy backfires by selling early while the crypto bull market continues with Trump's coronation. Knowing this, we are committed to admitting defeat in the bull market, steamrolls through January 20th, licking your wounds and getting back on the bull. That's what's going to happen. You're going to have a continuation of the bull run because it doesn't really have anything to do with the presidency. It just has to do with what the market wants to see. And the market is ready for that bull run. So we're going to see a big bull run. So look for consolidation on XRP. Look for an explosive move on XRP. Look for, I told you, by the way, there's going to be a big dump that happens. There will be a big dump that happens. I just don't know exactly when that's going to happen. Also, Circle CEO gives an update on stablecoin legislation and Bitcoin future. That's Jeremy Allaire. I just bounced to 272 yesterday. So what I think is going to happen is it's going to rip up to $5 is what I think the next big move for XRP is. So 243-ish. I mean, isn't it there now? I mean, it's like that's where it is right now. It was where it was a few minutes ago. Yesterday it was up to 272. So, I think ultimately what it looks like is right up here, and right here. It's actually down here a little bit. Somewhere between $4.60 and $5, I think, is the next big impulse move. And by the way, it's not for nothing. It's just if I took the trend lines and I said, well, these are the next trend lines and stuff like that, and I move that over here, it checks out that that's going to be the next one. And by the way, this one is about the same. This one is about the same. So I would think that this is the next move. So $5 most likely for XRP. But back to it. Jeremy Allaire recently discussed stablecoin legislation, and he shared his thoughts on the volatile crypto outlook. The central theme of his discussion was that clear federal legislation needs to be passed around stablecoins if the mainstream is to widely adopt digital assets. While he believes Bitcoin fixed supply could make it a viable reserve asset, he argues that federal legislation could enable stablecoins to function as true digital cash. And that's where we're really getting to, that spot where the important part is how do we make this market more sustainable for just your random investors, for just random investors. How do we do that? And it has to be stablecoin legislation, because you have to have, you as a trader or as somebody who wants to use cryptocurrency and digital assets, the way you're going to use it is not going to be. And by the way, a lot of people put a lot into Bitcoin as currency or Dogecoin as currency because Elon Musk and his extra chromosome are like, no, that's exactly what we're going to do. That's not currency. That's stupid. Okay. What is currency, however, is stable coins. If stable coins are back to $1, then that becomes the online currency of the future. That's the way this works. And what you would do is you would invest in other assets and other businesses, just like you were doing before. Like today, you take your dollars and your money from your bank and you give to trading firm and you buy select assets, or you put your money on Robinhood in dollars and it's equated in dollars, and you buy an asset in dollars, whether it be gold or silver or Microsoft or MicroStrategy or Apple or Google or whatever it is that you buy, right? And then it makes money or it loses money. And then you sell that asset and you have either more or less of your dollar. And then you go to the store and you don't buy with gold. You don't buy with silver. You don't buy with, I'll give you 9 MicroStrategies for your used vehicle. That's retarded. That I'm sorry, that has an extra crumb. That works for Tesla. Do you know what I mean? That's not how it's going to work. It's going to work through stable coins. At best, it's going to work through Satoshis, but that doesn't even make sense at this point. It's going to be stablecoin legislation, turning it into money. Boom. You know what I'm saying? He who shall be named is asking a great question, which, goddamn it, okay, so here is the way that I'm to understand it. Market cap that should be followed is this one right here on DevE, and it is the one right here, 28.86. Now, the reason for that is because This was immediately done the right way. And anytime something goes into circulating supply, it's immediately accounted for by Uniswap and DexTool. So the original, there's 75 million total tokens, but the circulating supply right now is 38 million. So the current market cap is 28.68. Total market cap is 56 million. Now, when you come over to an asset over here, for example, if you were to use XRP. So XRP has a circulating supply, which is 57 billion, and then a total supply, which is basically 100 billion. So the market cap right here of 141 billion right now is not the total market cap. The fair dollar value, which is the total market cap, is 247 billion. So that's the way that, this is the way that you should look at it over here, because on DevE, like, they don't have it right. Now, one of the things that they don't have right on DevE on CoinMarketCap for me is when you look at it here, you've got 62 million market cap, but it's got a fair dollar value of 223 million. That makes no sense whatsoever, right? And it's based on a total supply of 120 million DevE, but they don't have 120 million DevE. There's 75 million DevE. So, they've got, and they won't update. And by the way, over here, it says there's 300 million in total supply. So, and circulating is 83. Like, they just got wild numbers over here, and they can't seem to get, CoinMarketCap keeps telling them we're going to take care of it. You know what I mean? I can't, the CoinMarketCap continue to take care of it, but they're not taking care of it. And by the way, one of the things that I do want to point out is when you look at the volume over here, it is still in Uniswap, but Gate.io now has $500,000 in volume on DevE every day, and MEXC about 200,000. Now, I don't trust MEXC, but it still has, right there. And you can see right there, the reason that it's weird on volume is because these are, like DevE's at 76 cents here, 74. That's arbitrage opportunity. You know what I mean? So I don't think these numbers are correct. I think the numbers over here on DexTools, I am told those are correct. So I would be looking at this right here. But just remember that DevE, if they don't fix it, if it doesn't get fixed on CoinMarketCap, it's not going to really matter. What matters is over here. And by the way, if you own DevE, like I own DevE, in that you are buying it on Uniswap, then this is the only price that matters right there. That's what you're trading based on. So that's the one that matters the most. And by the way, when you look at DevE, that bounce right there that's happening right now, I think it's going to lead to 90 cents one more time. Because again, what do I tell you that these things play out? They play out to from zero from one to zero, right? And then back down into either the golden ratio, or it could dip down even harder, which it did. And then the recovery should go up into the 236 over time, taking it to 90 cents. And then it should go back down to 75. And then we should have a breakout and test the all-time here. And then we should go up to the next level of resistance, which is going to be right there at $1.15. That's what I think is going to happen to DevE over the next little while. That's what I think the market will look like. And look, I don't know. You never know how it's going to play out. Remember, look, there's a lot of people. The one thing that I'm going to say to you, and by the way, if you are a whale, you are not going to like this. Spoiler alert, okay? There are a lot of whales out here in these chats that act like whales, but they sure as shit are not, they're not mentally whales. To me, a whale is a guy who's willing to buy a lot and to sit on it for a long time, and not just a transactional trader. And that's what most of the whale chats are. Transactional traders who are just looking for a way to pump something so that they can sell it. Okay. Now, if you're a child, if you're a child, you need to be immediately stimulated. Or if you're childlike in nature, you need to be immediately stimulated, right? I wasn't playing with you and I wasn't crying to you at 12 cents, right? On DevE. I'm not crying to you when it goes from $1 to 75 cents. I'm not crying about all this kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, and by the way, there's a lot of people who bought this thing at $2. But here's the thing. when you go into some of these chats and you see these whale chats, these are not the people, these are not your friends. These are the guys that will immediately sell off. And let me go no further, by the way. Let me go no further than the situation that just happened over right here. And this is, for those of you that don't know, this is Cortex, okay? A couple of months ago, a guy came in, a whale, okay? A whale came in. And look at the pump. Okay, now this whale bought right here. You see where I circled right there? So a little while back, at about 25 cents, a whale stepped in and started buying an absolute ton, an absolute ton. It bought 10 million Cortex. Okay. So he paid a couple $1 million for Cortex. What happened? People got super excited about Cortex, and what happened? Boom, 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 boom. Comes back down a little bit, and then it starts to spike. Boom, 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 boom. Came up to $1, and what did he do? He sold half of it up here. And by the way, let me point out, he sold half of it and made all of his money plus profit. This guy put $2.5 million, or let's call it, somewhere in the neighborhood of $3 million in right here, cashed out half of it for $4 million, made $1 million in profit, and now he's still holding 5 million more. And people know where that's going to go. So people are now selling off. This guy absolutely manipulated everybody in Cortex. Okay. And now, because he sold off, now they're selling off, because now they're like, well, he still has 5 million, which means that he's probably going to sell off again.
And started in just a couple minutes. Anwar, it looks like the waiting room is still on. Do you want it that way?
Yeah, no, I was gonna disable it right now, but
Okay.
There we go. There, it's disabled.
Okay, I'll let Laura in. I think we need some like a webinar theme song to play, like the 2 minutes before we get started. Yeah, sometimes I'm good about having music, but sometimes it just doesn't happen. So folks who are here early, first of all, welcome. Thanks for being here. We'll get started in just a few more minutes. We'd like to warmly invite you to click on chat and feel free to introduce yourself. Let us know where you're joining in from and how you're feeling today. We've got about 2 more minutes before we get started. It's good to see so many different regions. It looks like from California so far represented. Oh, from Missouri. Hi, Marcy. And Wisconsin. Hello, Eileen, sorry. Hey there, Cheryl. Good to see you. Hi, Jason. It's been a while since we've crossed paths. Okay, it's 10 o'clock, and we've got a pretty full agenda today, so I think we should go ahead and get started. First of all, welcome again. We're so happy that you've chosen to join us today for this session. I'm Michelle Pacansky-Brock. I am faculty mentor for CVC at One, and I'm joined by four panelists who I'm going to introduce in just a little bit. Before we get started, I have two quick housekeeping announcements. First of all, this session is being recorded, and the recording will be available in about a week on the CVC at One webinars page. So that takes care of that question. And the second thing I wanted to let you know is that we often have folks come to our webinars and ask how they can get verification of attendance. So I want to cover that. Anwar, my colleague, who's here today and will be helping me moderate the chat and some of the administrative stuff, is going to be dropping a link to an evaluation survey in the chat midway through and a couple of other times through the session today. That evaluation survey is important. It gives us really valuable feedback to help us improve, but it also gives you the option to get verification of attendance. So at the bottom of that form, you'll see an option to email your responses or send responses to yourself. Click that option, you'll enter your email, you'll get your responses, and you can use that to verify your attendance. So that's the way that works. And I think we're going to go ahead and get started then. Today's session is Authentic Presence and Digital Doubles, Navigating Synthetic Media in Equitable Online Teaching. And I am really excited to share this experience with you all. We have a resource site, and I'm going to give you the link for that resource site, which you can also get to on your mobile device by scanning the QR code on your screen. That resource site has the slides that I'm going to show in just a moment. And it also has the names of our presenters. It has a little bit about the context about this webinar. Anwar, could you do me a favor and just be sure folks are muted as they join? We're getting a lot of hot mics. Thanks. And you're also going to find some examples of synthetic media on that site that we'll likely be referencing in our conversation today with the panelists, as well as some resources at the bottom. So feel free to check that out. And that's what I just told you, so I can skip past that slide. The agenda for today, within the next hour, first of all, I'm going to set a little bit of the context for this webinar, because it is coming out of a very specific context, and it's going to make a lot more sense when I explain that in a moment. And then we're going to have a conversation with participants of a community of practice that I'll introduce in the context. I also want to mention that we have four of our community of practice participants here as panelists, and we have everyone else in the audience. So I invite those folks to chime in as we get into some of the conversations too.
Michelle, a few people are mentioning that the link isn't working.
Oh. Let me just check that. It's working, I'm hearing. It's working for some folks, so I think that might be a local issue. Okay, well, I'm going to have to troubleshoot that later. Sorry, folks. And then at the end, we will be having time for questions. So if anything comes up on your end during our conversation, we invite you to share those questions in the chat. We'll be keeping an eye on those, and Anwar will help me loop back to those questions later if we don't get them woven into the dialogue. So today's webinar is about synthetic media, and I'm going to say conversation rather than webinar. Today's conversation is about synthetic media. So I just want to pause for a moment and explain what we mean by the term synthetic media. It's a term that nowadays is used to describe content, and it could be video, it could be audio, it could be image, or it could be text. So some kind of content that has been generated or modified through the use of AI. From my experiences, synthetic media usually is more referring to video and audio and image than text, but technically it covers all of those. And this content can include deep fakes, which is sometimes why people cringe a little bit when they hear the word synthetic media. Deep fakes, of course, are generally unconsensual synthetic media that portray individuals saying something or doing something that they did not do. And you don't have to click very far to see examples. If you have any social media accounts, go ahead and right now, and I bet you could find an example. Yes, so that is important to remember that that's part of our context here today. The other term that we're using in the title and throughout our session today is equitable online teaching. So I just want to be very clear about what we mean by that. When we use the phrase equitable online teaching, we're referring to intentionally designing and facilitating. So designing and facilitating is that teaching part, asynchronous learning environments that mitigate power inequities by supporting the varying social, emotional, and cognitive needs, abilities, and cultural knowledge of the diverse students served by community colleges. So our conversation is anchored in community colleges. That is who we are representing today, California community colleges. And community colleges are open access institution. It is our mission to serve everyone. So that's very important to frame this session today. So as some of you might know, the work that I have done for many years has been anchored in humanized online teaching. And that is very much framed around the importance of relationships. And I had become very intrigued by this kind of the surfacing of synthetic media, in particular digital doubles. And I started experimenting briefly with it, gosh, I guess about a year ago when things, actually a year and a half ago when I was still using a still image of myself. And the kind of angst underneath my emotional existence started kind of bubbling up. And I thought, gosh, we have to talk about this. And so I was very happy to get the support of CVC and @ONE to offer a community of practice this spring around synthetic media. And we titled it the exact same title as this webinar. And I thought a good way to introduce the community of practice to you would be to play the actual promotional video. So I'm going to do that right now.
Hi there, folks. In this community of practice, we will explore the ethical dimensions of teaching online with synthetic media. Synthetic media includes video bots and voice clones that create replicas of humans, like the video you're watching right now. This video shows an AI video bot reciting a transcript that Michelle wrote but never actually spoke. What possibilities do these emerging technologies present for online teachers? And what barriers do they create for students, particularly students with marginalized identities? Together, we will critically examine this new frontier of teaching online while centering the critical role that our authentic human presence plays in developing trust with students. I'm looking forward to addressing these questions and more in community with you.
So that gives a little bit of context for how we were approaching the community of practice, inviting folks into this space to have a conversation and learn about
Hi there, folks.
about what synthetic media is, and thinking about how it may influence students positively or negatively, as well as some other repercussions about it. And so the members that joined us are all listed on the screen here, and they are also present here today. So I'd like to welcome them. And 4 of the members, as I mentioned, are going to be panelists in the conversation today. We met this spring for a total of 6 times, 1.5 hours each time in Zoom. It was a fully online conversation. And between our meetings, we were basically challenged ourselves to experiment and kick the tires on a couple of different tools with synthetic media. The tools that we were focusing on were HeyGen and Synthesia.
I'm in a webinar, but I can get.
And the participant breakdown or quick overview, we had representation from 12 California community colleges or districts. a balanced mix of teaching and support roles. So we had teaching faculty as well as instructional designers and people in more of an instructional support role. And the majority of our participants have 3+ years of online teaching experience and a strong foundation in online pedagogy. The participants, when asked about their familiarity with generative AI video tools, 57%, a little bit over half, said basic knowledge, and 43% said moderate. So a little bit of knowledge, but no one was using AI generated videos in their instruction prior to the community of practice. And in terms of their perceptions, everyone's perceptions coming in, there were opportunities that were noted. Folks seemed curious and rather, curiously optimistic about using synthetic media to more quickly update videos, which we all know are very time consuming, and also using them to support multiple languages. And that is certainly a feature that is intriguing about synthetic media. You can quickly transform a video in one language to a video in another language, and it actually syncs the lips to that language. And the learning experiences was another theme that surfaced, specifically using multiple modalities in our teaching and learning, and also using synthetic media for more diverse representation of who's doing the presenting. And I think that will likely come up in our panel today. This was a comment that represents an opportunity. I think of the magic school bus. Can I transport myself to the areas I'm teaching about when covering cells? Can I lecture about mitochondria as I'm standing next to one? I think that would be really cool. So that curiosity driving a lot of the opportunities. And then there were also concerns that were noted when we probed the participants coming into the COP. Those themes centered around authenticity and trust, and also technical and ethical themes. So in authenticity and trust, there were some uncertainties around how this might impact student-teacher relationships with the loss of the human touch. And also there were concerns about the balance between efficiency, right? That drive to be quick and fast, and the need for being authentic in our teaching and learning online. Within technical and ethical, there were privacy and data security concerns that also surfaced, the concerns about deep fakes, and also the learning curve with yet another new technology, and the question about exacerbating equity gaps. And on the other end of the spectrum, this is a quote from one of our participants about concerns. They said, deepfakes, identity theft, misinformation, and disinformation, supporting the very tools that are arguably compromising the careers of artists and others, contributing to the downfall of humankind, particularly the already downtrodden. So our feelings, our perceptions kind of ran the gamut. And I also just want to say, coming into the COP, we were very focused. We were intentional about thinking about identity. We started our conversations with looking at the identity, the power wheel, the privilege wheel the wheel of privilege and power that you see small in the lower right part of the screen, and reflecting on our own identities and having conversations about them, and keeping identity at the center of our conversations as we went through all of our sessions. So we were emphasizing that identity shapes how a person experiences the world, and we were all encouraged to reflect on our intersecting identities, and of course, as always, try to be critically aware of the privileges that we lean on as we enter our discussion space, as well as engage with synthetic media. So the identities shape everything. Identity is intersectional. Power is always at play. How a person feels influences their ability to achieve their full potential. And that's something that we stress a lot with regards to humanizing and online teaching and learning. And of course, we want to center all of this, as I said just a moment ago, to consider how synthetic media may mitigate or exacerbate power inequities.
Atlas.
And how a person feels affects everything. I think fundamentally that is what it comes down to. I'm laughing because the little audios are throwing my brain off. So it's a perfect example that, that's affecting my ability to focus. So, Anwar, I'm just going to share. I think if you go into
I
participants.
clicked on under host and I enabled that they're not allowed to unmute themselves, but I'm not sure.
I got it. Yeah, I got it.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
And just so you know, it's under participants and then more, and you select mute upon entry.
Okay, thank you.
I think that should take care of it. Yeah, so I love this slide because it's so simple, but it really underscores and reminds us that emotions are integrated with learning, and not just learning, they're integrated with everything that we do. And synthetic media certainly does make you feel a certain way, and that's something we'll talk about as well, keeping that in mind. And with that in mind, we started our COP with a community agreement that we all co-created, and these were just some of the things that came up in our community agreement: a drive to be inclusive and embrace diversity as an asset, to make space for our emotions, to be open to trying new things, being sure that it's a no judgment zone, not putting pressure on people to try a tool if they're not feeling comfortable doing so. That was completely fine. Acknowledging that disagreements are normal and will happen, and be kind and respectful to one another. So with that context, we are going to now turn over to our panelists. And they are each going to introduce themselves in just a moment, but just quickly, we have Katie Palacios from San Diego Mesa College, Nick Schuler from Ventura College, Jane Lescafe from Sierra College, and Sasha Stoich Ito from Los Angeles Community College District. And I'm so happy to have them join us today, and I want to give them just a big vote of a big thank you, because I know that all of you have so much happening, and yeah, including illnesses and conference and all kinds of stuff. Spring breaks are upon us. So first of all, hello. And I am going to get started by asking you to introduce yourself one by one and tell us a little bit about why you joined the COP. And as you do that, if you could choose one word to describe your experiences so far, because we do still have one more session, that would be great. So introduce yourself, tell us why you joined the COP, and in one word, describe your experiences so far. And Katie, I'm going to turn to you first.
Lucky me. Hi, everybody. It's good to be here. I'm Katie Palacios. I've been an instructional designer since 2007, and I joined this COP at San Diego Community College District. I'm at San Diego Mesa College, so shout out to all the Mesa folks in the room. I've been an instructional designer. I've been a faculty member. I'm a faculty instructional designer in our professional learning program right now. And I am a facilitator for the 10-10-10 at one course, the communication that matters. And I joined the COP because I started getting questions from the faculty who I support at Mesa about synthetic media. Like, these tools started coming up. Hey, have you seen this? I love video, and I love humanizing with video. And so faculty started asking me these questions, and I was kind of torn about I didn't have a real good sense of how I felt about it. And so I wanted to join the COP to just kind of dig into this more. And so I jumped at the chance.
Thank you. Thanks for that intro. And I'm just going to expand on
my one word.
Oh yeah, your one word.
Sorry. My one word is fun. It's been fun to play with the tools in a safe, supportive space. So that's my word.
Great. Thank you. And how about we go to Jane, and then Sasha, and then Nick?
Hey everyone. Thanks again, Michelle, for inviting me in this space and just kind of sharing my experiences. So I'm Jane Lescafe. I am a faculty member in the Department of Ethnic Studies at Sierra College. In terms of why I took a part in this community of praxis is because I just don't want to be left behind in this AI revolution, to be honest. And I know that we're on the cusp of a really big paradigm shift in terms of how we teach because of all the upcoming technology. And I'm also on the AI task force through the Senate. And I'm just really fascinated by everything that's kind of coming out. And I just actually returned from an AI conference in Puerto Rico, which was very empowering, and just kind of hearing about what the unintended consequences are of AI and discussions about bias. I think it's really important to diversify that space in terms of who is actually designing these AI applications. So I'm excited to be here. The one word that I would use to describe my experience so far is frisson, which is that liminal space between excitement and fear, kind of like being on a roller coaster. There's definitely a lot of excitement, but also some apprehension on what's to come, and just kind of proceeding with caution and eyes wide open.
Jane, say that word again.
Frisson.
I don't know that word.
Risson.
Good. I don't know that word. That's fascinating. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction, and we're also so glad that you're in this space with us. So thanks for that. Sasha.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Michelle, for the invite. My name is Sasha Stoich-Ido, and I work as a faculty, but also as a multimedia specialist. My strong focus is on instructional design and digital accessibility. So I spend a lot of time wondering, how can technology be more inclusive? How can we remove barriers? And how can we push the education forward? I wanted to join this community of practice because I am curious, how can this fit in academia setting from the perspective of accessibility and usability? One word that describes this experience would be curiosity. Thank you.
I like it. And as you're hearing, everybody is bringing very different perspectives into this space. So it's really been an enriching experience to get so many different perspectives to learn from together, which is so great about COPs. Hi, Nick. How you doing today?
Hi everyone. I'm Nick Schuler. I teach biology at Ventura College. I'm usually an earlier adopter of technology, so I kind of jumped on the AI train as soon as I saw students using it. And I saw this sort of advertised to me through a fellow faculty member who couldn't do it, and jumped on the opportunity, and basically because I could not see a way that it would be used in teaching. So I was just really curious about how it was going to be used, and also scared of how it's going to be used. So I wanted to be kind of what all the other panelists have said, wanting to figure out how to use it or not use it, or what we should do with it. And I came out of this experience. I think my one word would be iffy. I'm still not sure about it. So.
Okay. Okay, that's good. That's a good introduction. I think I would say that I feel like it's been jarring. I've been just kind of moving around with my perceptions, and I, see opportunities. I'm in that same space. I'm just kind of unsettled about stuff. So, but it's also been fun. So I appreciate what Katie said. Yeah, okay. So thanks for that introduction. And the next question I've got for you has to do with this idea of identity. So we talked a little bit about your professional roles, but is there anything else that you'd like to share, reflect on about, how your identity is influencing your engagement with synthetic media as we've been going through our COP? I'm going to open it up to whoever wants to take that.
Yeah, I'll jump on it. So as someone who works extensively in accessibility, specifically in course design and building trainings and auditing and remediating, you name it, I like to look at things from the lens of solver one, but extend to many. So it's always that proactive attitude of, how can we ensure that we are including everyone? So I always ask a question, and it's also my bilingual nature, being raised in Europe, always asking question, and often in both languages. So I always come from the perspective of how can we reduce those barriers, specifically for multilingual learners, but also how can we serve students with disabilities, faculty that has limited time, and then ensuring that that identity representation matters deeply for everyone.
I would just, oops, sorry. I'll just add my perspective from both a personal point of view as well as a professional point of view. So from a personal point of view, the reason why I'm really interested is just because I see it as a time-saving tool, because I don't know how many of you create these lectures, and the perfectionism in me will constantly re-record videos. So I'm imagining if I just type things in, it would save me a lot of time. But also from a professional perspective, I think that my ethnic studies background really shapes the way that I digest and process all the information. It becomes a little bit of a filter. So I'm always talking about equity and bias and how these new forms of technology will ultimately affect students, especially from marginalized backgrounds, because some people might not be thinking about that. They might be so excited about the technology, but don't realize that some of the students and maybe even some of the staff and educators might be left behind in this journey.
Two
said.
things,
Yeah.
two things come to mind for me on this one. One is the I recognize my privilege in this space as a white, digitally literate, native English speaker. So I've definitely, I know that that influences how I'm interacting with the technology. I also come with, a very strong video background and using these tools, but not from a production perfection perspective, really imperfect is perfect. That's always been my motto when it comes to these videos. So I've always enjoyed the creation space of creating videos. And I have learned that more, I think, through the COP, because I feel like that part that I like is maybe not so much there using these tools. So I've found that to be interesting. Go ahead, Nick.
And I sort of came at this, I teach biology for non-majors, and I mean, students aren't going to walk away from a class like that knowing the ins and outs of photosynthesis and cellular respiration. So my perspective in this whole thing and my teaching in general is how do they navigate this growing amount of information that's going out there and is being unchecked. And I think in all of our classes, we try to teach them critical thinking skills. And so we have these videos. I see them on Instagram all the time of like, lion cubs jumping on their moms. And I'm like, that does not look real. And so you find out that it's AI generated. So it's already out there and they're looking at these videos and how do we incorporate that stuff into our teaching to let them know that this stuff is being made up. I don't know how many people send me those types of videos. Well, this is so cool. I'm like, that's not real. And so getting an idea of what's going on with this AI generated videos was important to me and trying to help my students navigate that too.
Well, speaking about what's real and what's not real, each of you created a digital double using a tool called Heygen, which is one of Heygen, which is one of the tools that we've been experimenting with. So let's get this out of the way right now, because it's a creepy topic to consider. And all of us had some really interesting reactions to watching our digital double. And as we watched it, we were introduced to the term uncanny valley, right? That was one of the concepts that we talked through. And for those of you not familiar with that word, that is a term that was popularized in the 1970s by a Japanese roboticist named Masahiro Mori. And it is that sensation that a human feels when they're interacting with something that starts to look and feel a little too human, but they know isn't human. It's in that space. And it's called a valley because we're generally, we have a comfort level and then it drops. And so who wants to share a little bit about how it felt to be in an uncanny valley watching your digital double and what you took away from it?
Mine was so weird. Mine, I mean, obviously I was super creeped out by mine. To me, it didn't seem like me at all. And I showed coworkers and they were like, what on earth did you do? Like, what is that? So yeah, I showed my kids and they were like, why are you talking like a robot? You know, it was funny. They, yeah, you can show mine. If now's the time to show
Hi
it.
there, it's me, Katie. Well, kinda. This is Katie's digital double. Katie loves using videos to communicate with you all, but there are times throughout the semester when she's unable to record. This usually happens when Katie is on the go with her kids or busy in meetings at work. In those instances, you may get a video from me, her digital double, instead.
Okay, I'm just going to play a clip.
The end is really funny. I can't remember what I said at the end. Just play the
Do you want me to go to the end?
Just go to the end. It's like how I sign off.
Speaking the words to you, but every once in a while, it'll be me. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. Yeah. So the funny thing is I showed my mom and she didn't pick up on it at all. I thought that was really weird. My kids were like, it's an AI video, Grandma. But anyway, yeah, I was creeped out by it.
Your own mom.
Yeah.
Okay.
That might be a digital literacy thing with my mom,
Yeah.
you know, with the video stuff. I'm not sure.
Of course, right. Yeah. I've known you for a very long time, Katie, and I had a really hard time watching that video because I knew how unlike you it is. And it's those verbal and nonverbal cues, right? They're just not right. So thanks for sharing and thanks for letting us check out your digital double.
Absolutely.
Who else would like to share a little bit?
Just wanted to share my experience in terms of how fearful I was of the deep fake. So that connection between the deeper the fake, the more uncanny the valley. And I actually took a lot more comfort in terms of what I introduced during our community practice, the idea of shallow fake, that there's some comfort in knowing that it's obviously not real. So there was a video I created with just the photo of myself. I didn't train it. It's just the voice that was automatically generated from HeyGen, so it's not my voice. And they even inserted a hand gesture. There was no hand in my photo. That for some reason I felt more comfortable with that shallow fake versus the deep fake. And I guess that's the video.
Yeah, here, I'll play it real quick.
Era of video creation with HeyGen. Simply type your script to get started. Welcome to the new era of video creation with HeyGen.
So it put the hand in there?
Yeah, that was not my hand, and I didn't ask it to put my hand in there, but for some reason, and I don't know, it was just a very natural reaction for me. And it was the same example that I brought up during our conversations about, like, if you were to insert a cartoon version of myself, for some reason that seems less of a discomfort for me, because it's not like I'm trying to trick the students.
Yeah, and as I'm listening to you, Jane, it's just reminding me of how much we were, I'm not going to speak for everybody, but how much of me and how much I picked up on many of us expressed this kind of, you know, like moral and ethical navigation, just about like where are the boundaries of what I'm okay with. And that's a really interesting part of this conversation. And where were we here? So we were talking about our digital doubles and how we were navigating a lot of ethical and kind of moral feelings, right? The way you feel affects everything. That's what my brain keeps telling me right now. And does anyone else have anything to share about their digital double? Trying really hard to put that aside without acknowledging if anybody needs to go and clear your mind, I totally understand. But yeah, does anyone else have anything to share about that topic? How it felt, what your takeaways were, Sasha?
I think I approached this one from a slightly different perspective. The current instruction is very sort of static, torso up, no gestures, speaking to the camera, and I absolutely did everything opposite. I was dancing in front of the camera and moving around, and the culture I'm coming from, we speak with our hands and with our body. So I really truly wanted to see, would AI pick up on that? You can play a bit, Michelle.
Okay.
Hi, I am Sashka, Sasha's digital double. We are embarking on this synthetic media journey in hopes that I could be Sasha's double in all things exercise demo, and that what she cannot, I am able to show you. The goal of this first video was to showcase if we're able to record video, catching the full body, the movement, gestures and all. Also, unlike Sasha, I don't sweat, I don't forget my left from my right, and my form is literally perfect because it was programmed that way. You're welcome. In the future, you might see me leading warm-ups, demonstrating stretches, or showing off moves Sasha calls gentle mobility, but I call digital gymnastics. And if you ever catch me glitching, no you didn't. Just blink and refresh your browser. Now, while Sasha needs sleep, coffee, and an occasional pep talk, I run 24/7 on pixels and pure confidence. No rest days in the metaverse, baby. Sure, I may be synthetic, but I'm 100% committed to making sure your form is correct, your spine is aligned, and your eyebrows. Slightly impressed. Think of me as Sasha's stand-in with no injuries, no bad hair days, and no risk of stepping on a Lego mid-stretch. This is part one of the grand experiment.
Okay. Are you good with me stopping there?
Yes, yes. So I wanted to see, would my digital double be able to absorb my moves? And how would that render? So I think it truly got everything to the T in terms of the way I moved, the gestures, the hands, voice, not so much. But I experimented with an idea of using my digital double in my courses where it can demonstrate exercise for me if I'm not capable, or if I can make specific levels of accommodation and showing things in many different ways, and then also taking that and CCing it in a different language and so on. So I was so excited the way it turned out. I showed it to my partner. He was creeped out. But I see a lot of opportunities where I would be able to use this in hopes that they would develop more gestures, more body movement, because after a while it goes on a loop. Even though I submitted 2-3 minute videos to see how many movements it can absorb. So after a while, it just keeps going. But it was fun to do this.
I'm really glad that you did that. And that was another fun part, or I should say interesting part of the COP, was to see the different ways that folks were kicking the tires on the tools and saying, well, what if I did this? What if I did that? And I just want to acknowledge there's a question that came up in the chat from Amber. Can you ask the double to be more perky or move your hands more? And so we're using the free version, first of all, and that was kind of a condition of the COP because we didn't have funding to purchase upgraded accounts. And so you are limited with regards to what you can do. And what you do is you upload like I think it says 2.5 to 3 minute video. They recommend a 3-minute video of yourself talking in a setting, wearing whatever you want. And that video is what the AI grabs and uses to train itself and create the digital avatar, and the digital double. And so the gestures that you use in the training video, right, get kind of worked into that algorithm and sometimes get applied in proper context and sometimes they look really weird. But in the free version, you can change, I think you can change the way you talk. Like you can add like curious or excited, like, which I've never actually played with. And you can also give your voice, voice clone an accent. And Jane, maybe you want to talk about that in a minute. But with a free account, you can't actually, say, be more perky. There are different options, different features baked into the more premium accounts, but we didn't get our arms around those, so can't speak to them too much. Nick, do you want to say anything about your experience?
Sure. Yeah. I think I jumped on it immediately after we finished and you introduced it to us, and went out and did a training video in the yard. And My mind was always going with how could these videos be used for our students, and I think about how they like content delivered in different ways. And some of my online classes, they'll do some reading here, and then they'll watch a video of me, and then they'll listen to something. Maybe they'll put something into Notebook LM and get a podcast of it. So my idea here was how could they get this delivered in their preferred format, the content, and maybe this is some tool that they could do. So I went into it thinking I was going to record a video and then translate the transcript into Spanish and have it in English and Spanish. And so that's sort of what I did. As soon as I did it, I posted both on my social media, and then I showed it to my students. People were kind of blown away by it and kind of freaked out. And I saw some of my friends doing their own versions of it too. So I don't know. I'm still not sure how to use it, but it was kind of fun to make the videos and explore that in the direction. We only used HeyGen because it was the only one that allowed you to make videos for free. We played around with other ones that use avatars that are not yourself.
Yeah, so HeyGen is the only one that allows you to make a digital double of yourself for free, right? And Synthesia is the other one that we played with. And Synthesia, you can create, just as you said, the digital avatars, but not of yourself with the free account. And there are some really interesting other features, but I want to loop back a little bit to this, the idea of using the multiple languages and kind of the notion of authenticity and navigating how you feel about like adding this different identity to a video that looks like you. Does anyone, Jane, do you want to jump in there? I see your head nodding.
Well, it's actually the response I was going to have to the next question about the most memorable moment that I had in the community of practice so far. It's something that I didn't consider until I actually experienced myself. And that's why it's so important to have diverse voices and backgrounds into this space. But the most memorable moment was when I was still messing around with the HeyGen free version, and I was having some technical issues. So I ended up just doing an audio file training, and I ended up letting all my friends and family hear that particular audio file. And pretty much across the board, there was a consensus of like, that really sounds like you, but not you, because you sound white in that particular iteration of myself. And it was so fascinating because it, like, that feeling, that uncanny feeling, it's me but not me. And it just got my mind rolling in terms of what does sounding white even mean, right? It does American mean white, and it brought up things about linguistic justice and potential accent discrimination, especially with training. And I remember during my dissertation years ago when I was using the Dragon program to transcribe a lot of my interviews, my in-depth interviews, and they wouldn't recognize a lot of the words that I was saying, or would be mistranscribed. But obviously, years later, it's improved tremendously in terms of, and I didn't think I would have an accent, right? But it was just fascinating to kind of have that experience. And I don't know if, Michelle, you wanted to play the audio file, and then I'll explain what I ended up doing after that in terms of the accents.
Yeah, let me know what one you want me to play. The first one? Or?
The audio file at the very top. Do you see the far left? It says, this is an audio file of Jane's.
Oh, this one. Yes. One. Okay, that one.
So
here we go.
The concept of race is often taken for granted, yet it is primarily a social construction rather than a biological fact. At its core, the social construction of race refers to how societal norms, historical contexts, and social interactions shape our understanding of race. Unlike physical traits like skin color, which are genetically determined, race is an idea that has evolved and changed over time, influenced by cultural, political, and economic factors.
So it's interesting to hear that, because to me, it lands as, it sounds like me, but not me. And then people have different experiences with it, where Michelle, you said that you just sound very stern that particular, which I don't feel like I'm a stern educator, so I don't know how it created that output. I don't know if it was the training that maybe I was speaking too quickly. And these are things, and I did come about realizing like your tone in your training ultimately shapes the output, right? When I tried Synthesia, they gave me a very positive script to train, and I found myself being very positive in terms of how I actually read the script.
Oh, you mean the content, the
Yes, the
positive content.
content, right?
Oh,
Like how
interesting.
much the script actually shapes how you portray yourself, both verbally as well as just in terms of your body language. So I think that's something to consider as well. And then I ended up doing just the month subscription because after having this experience, I wanted to kind of see what the accents would be like. And so that's when I paid for it, I was able to kind of create very short, like 6-minute clips of the exact same text because I wanted it to be consistent across all recordings. And all I did was change the accent output. So I have my original authentic voice, and then I selected American English and then also Australian English to see how much they would shift how I sounded. And that's in the video clip. So I don't know if you wanted to play a couple of those.
Sure. Let's see. Which one do you want me to play?
Yeah, just the authentic first, and then just go down the line. It's just 6 seconds.
Welcome to the new era of video creation with HeyGen. Simply type your script to get started. Welcome to the new era of video creation with HeyGen. Simply type your script to get started.
Which sends a message that I don't have an American accent, right? When I have that experience. And then I just tried Australian because just to give you a little bit of background, I'm a daughter of Vietnamese refugees, and we almost ended up in Australia instead of the US after we got sponsored. So I was curious to just see what I would sound like if I ended up growing up in Australia.
Welcome to the new era of video creation with HeyGen. Simply type your script to get started.
Yeah, so it was fascinating for me in terms of my personal experience. I tried some other accents. I think I tried Indian as well as Nigerian just to kind of see the output. But it was just a very enlightening experience for me. And it makes me kind of push back on the design team and just to always get them to recognize the diversity in our population and the nuances, and just to be very sensitive in the creation of a lot of these AI applications.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. I'm gonna loop back to the next question in just a second, but this kind of ties in. I think we might run out of time. And folks, I understand that the chat is disabled, and while that really pains me to not have interaction coming in, I'm really thinking that's probably the best case right now, because I don't know what else might happen if we loosen up security right now. So many apologies. If you want to take a look at this video here, it's interesting for a couple of reasons. This video I created using HeyGen, but it's a video that summarizes a research article, and the full research article is at the bottom. It's this one right here. Is deepfake diversity real? Analyzing the diversity of deepfake avatars. And it goes on to point out all kinds of gaps in terms of the representation, right? So like older people are not represented generally, and non-binary gender not represented, right? Lots of intersecting identities get left out, but it's really an interesting article. And so we were playing around a little bit, and in HeyGen, let me back up. I took the article, which is shared with a Creative Commons license, and I put it into Claude, and I generated a summary of the article, so a script, and I said, write it in a script for community college educators drawing out, looking at the findings through a critical lens. So it wrote a script, and then I took the script and the article, I'm sorry, I took the article and I put the article into Gamma and generated slides. And then I took the slides and downloaded them and put the slides into HeyGen with the script and generated a video. And it has my digital avatar at the beginning introducing it, and then it kind of summarizes the article. And then at the end, folks, here on the panel and in the audience in the COP. I edited it since you saw it last time. But at the end, it has an actual authentic video of me. So it kind of gives a little bit of comparison of different ways to use the comparison of the digital double and actually me, but it also is this really interesting use of a mashup of different types of AI. And that goes back to, I think, Katie or someone was mentioning the digital literacies that are embedded within all of this creation, which is interesting. And some folks have that and some folks don't. So I just wanted to point that out. We're probably not going to have time to share that because I certainly want to ask a couple more questions. But it is on the site. I would like to hear from a couple others of you, or the rest of you, hopefully, if we can get to everyone, about what a memory is that stands out to you from the COP. I'm going to give you a choice. You can share that, or you can share maybe an opportunity or a concern. So let us know what you're responding to, and then go ahead and share an opportunity, concern, or one of your favorite moments, which might be an opportunity or a concern. I think we're waiting to hear from Katie or Sasha or Nick.
Sure, I can go. I think so. I could not see a way that this would be used in our teaching. I just didn't think students wanted to see fake videos of us, even if we were upfront about using it or anything like that. But we spent some time doing Leon Furs, is that how you say his last name? We did his course that's completely AI generated, including the videos. And going through that course, I realized that it didn't bother me in the least bit that it was AI generated because he was upfront about it. And I thought I learned in that. And so that's what sort of got me shifting my way of thinking around synthetic media in teaching, in that it can be used as long as you're transparent about using it and that students want it. And that's got me thinking what I brought up earlier, that this is a tool that students could use to learn. So they could request to get a video of your transcript instead of having to read it or something along those lines. Because I know they all have preferences in the way they learn. So
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that Leon Furs course is also linked on our Google site at the bottom if anyone wants to take a look at that. And Nick, I remember that conversation because that was actually what I would have shared as being memorable too, and it was just listening to how differently everybody responded. Like I remember Audrey were saying I couldn't focus on anything but like him, like not being real. And so it's very interesting to hear those different reactions. Katie or Sasha?
I'll go with the opportunity and concern. Opportunity would be scale and access. So ensuring that there is a bandwidth for those who have currently, like, let's say, limited opportunities, students with disabilities. This can be definitely a game changer if we design it right. And if we design it right, it can be very flexible and very, very inclusive. But concern is also accessibility and then ethical consideration that can easily be misused.
Thank you for raising those.
For me, I think, I don't know what, I think maybe it's a concern, but it's kind of more like the context that we're using these videos in our online course. Like, I really had to think about the intention of the videos that why I decide to do a video. And I was actually teaching a 10-10-10 section during, it overlapped like by a week or a couple of weeks. And I had a video that I had already created my avatar, and I was going to then write a quick script for our week 4 closing video or something. I don't remember what one it was, but I didn't have time to record a video, which I usually do walking around campus, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, oh, well, I could just try my HeyGen, and I couldn't bring myself to do it. And I think because for me, the announcements are a time to connect with my students in time and space. Like, I feel like that's like them, it's a chance for them to see my authentic, like where I am, who I am, what I'm doing at that moment in San Diego. I mean, I feel like there's a real connection there. Like, oh, I get to see my teacher who's at, the basketball game watching our kids. Like, I don't know. And it's not to say that you can't do some of that with the Hey Gen videos, but I think for me, it was like the context of if I were to use these videos, it would be for module kickoff videos, or I really think intentionally about them feeling more like content videos instead of connection videos. If it's a video that the intent is to connect, then I would stick with my real imperfect self. So I feel like there's the opportunity of really identifying the goal of the video and the why behind the videos that you're recording.
I am right there with you, Katie. That is definitely one of my really valuable takeaways, lots of them, but AI, synthetic media can deliver content, right? But developing rapport, connection, trust, which is all part of motivating a student or any human for that matter, that's our job. That's our human job. And I want to recommend a book to everyone before we wrap up. It's called The Last Human Job. And unfortunately, once again, my brain is forgetting the author's name. The Last Human Job, but she talks about connective labor, which is that interaction, that relationship component between teacher and a student, or a nurse and a patient. There's certain jobs that have that connective labor. And she lays out an argument about how connective labor is becoming a commodity, it's becoming a luxury, and that those who don't have financial resources are less likely to get their connective labor from humans in the future and more likely to receive it from bots. And I just want to end on, as community college educators, I don't care what your role is, we serve the most diverse students than any other institution, and we have to be thinking about that really seriously. And for institutional leaders, start celebrating and recognizing and valuing more that connective labor in teaching and learning. We operate in these systems of efficiency that really undermines that value, and I think that's a shift that has to happen moving forward. I would like to answer Fred's question verbally, so this is in the archive. Fred, in the Q&A, you asked, can you speak in English and then switch to another language in the same video? Absolutely. Right there in the HeyGen interface, when you click on Create Video, it'll say, do you want to make an avatar video or translate a video? And you can actually upload any video and translate it into, I think it's 30 different languages with the free account. I may have that number wrong, but that's definitely there. And I do not, you've asked if Vietnamese is one of those languages, and I do not recall. Nick says he believes so. So you have to check that out on your own. Thank you, everyone. And folks in the audience, again, apologies for our very rude interruption. And I would like to encourage you, please, to complete the evaluation survey. And again, if you need that verification of employment, attendance, not employment. At the bottom of the evaluation form, select send me my results and use your email as your verification of attendance. Thank you so much to all of our panelists today, Jane and Katie and Sasha and Nick. I value your time and all that everybody in the COP has brought into the space, and everybody who attended today. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.
Good morning, Elizabeth Ellis here with TradeFlix Incorporated, looking at Bitcoin CNY, trading the market this morning. You can see that we are in an uptrend. We have green candles pretty much going straight up. This is the 4-hour chart, the 1 hour. Here's the 30-minute, and then it goes to the 15, the 5, and the 1. So what you'll find when you're trading is that the moves on the higher time frame charts are going to give you bigger moves, basically, moves that last longer. Something else that I noticed that I think is interesting is, like, for example, if you look at the 1 minute chart, the 1 minute chart is at 18,900, but the 4 hour chart is only at 18,630. So I just noticed that yesterday. Haven't put much thought into why that happens like that. It's just an observation at this point. So we are very strong in this uptrend. If you look at the 5 minute, the 30 has just now crossed to the upside, meaning that this move is actually getting stronger. The 1 hour or the 4 hour is coming into support. You can see this white line, %K, is sloping towards this green line, %D. The %D line is sloping up though, so that's showing you the overall momentum is to the upside. But we do have a little bit of this I would call it just a minor fluctuation in the momentum. So these charts are Coinergy.com. It is a trading platform, browser based, that allows you to set up charts as well as make trades to your broker. They have Coinergy has many Bitcoin exchange markets. So wherever you choose to, whichever exchange you choose to trade with, there's a good chance that you'll be able to find them listed in the market tab on Coinergy, and then you just simply set up the API to connect to your account, so that when you click to enter an order, if you want to enter from this screen, then you have that as an option. Keep in mind that you can also, if your exchange has an app, you can also enter your trades from the app. So let's see here. I'm going to expand out this 1 minute chart. And it looks like we are at a high. It looks like we're at a high on this chart that is equivalent to a previous high. You can see how we're right in that area of this high, this prior high here. And so with the indicator at the top more likely to come into support, I can see price potentially backing up here. However, we have this inflection event and price is popping up. We also have upside slope here. And we're making a higher high on the chart as well as a higher high on the indicator. So all of this is pointing towards continuation of this uptrend. So really, at that point, it is simply a couple of things, a matter of entering the trade, going ahead and getting in the market and taking, part in the action here. Or another opportunity can come with, and possibly even, and possibly even giving a better entry point. I think I just closed a one of my charts, the 4-hour chart. Trying to decide if I want to open that up. I guess I'll go ahead and do that. So you see we have this red candle popping up on the 1-minute chart. Well, pulling back on the 1-minute chart. And what this is saying is that we're simply pulling back into support at this level. So if support holds and the indicator, the price action begins to pop up like it just did, you can see this green candle here. We want to wait for the right moment to get in. This could be it. However, we have downside slope on this momentum. So there's a really good chance that, depending on how far down it comes, that if it were to come past the midpoint here, then we can expect this to pop up and come back and retest again. If that retest, that second retest holds, then I would enter the market there, more than likely, as long as everything else is still moving in favor of a buy. If you have heard anything about Bitcoin, then you know that Bitcoin is experiencing it's experiencing growth. The value of it is increasing. It's actually surpassed the value of gold as of March 2017, and so I kind of look at Bitcoin like Facebook, it's kind of, it's peer-to-peer. It's peer-to-peer, so your connections with other people will can contribute to your success in Bitcoin. When it comes to trading, you're trading the market, you're trading a chart. It's more of an independent type of operation. And the thing is that these charts, they do represent the behavior of people. So you're still connected. It's just more of an independent, way of earning or growing, your investment, or your longer term portfolio. So I'm still watching this 1-minute chart. And I had that muted for a minute longer than I had planned. All right, so I'm basically looking for one more pullback on the 1 or the 5. This really looks weird. This pattern doesn't even look right. Let me see if this chart actually did do that. It looks like it has a double move it's showing. Like, that's not even what the chart looks like. But it is. That is what the chart looks like. Okay. So looking at the 1 minute, I really prefer to trade the 15:30 1 hour and 4 hour. I'm saying I prefer, and really I am considering that as more of part of my possibly part of my future strategy here. I can still get great moves on the 1 and the 5. The 1 and the 5 show me what everyone else is thinking. This just looks so weird to me. It has this big gap right here. But it shows me what everyone else is thinking. And so if I stand back, let everyone, do what they're doing, I can enter the market. I can approach, the situation from a more of a bird's eye view, from a bigger picture perspective. Look at that price dropping. And so I'm really glad that I did not enter on this one. And I was saying, I'm not sure if I had this muted or not, but I said I was looking for a second pullback. And so another thing is, with this gap here that was filled, the price hasn't really gotten much higher than the high that it previously had. And so that shows me, that indicates to me that the momentum here is momentarily slowed down a little bit, basically. So, I'm always looking for the right opportunity, and that's really has a lot to do with timing. And I guess that's based off of perspective, whether a person can or will capitalize on that timing. But look at the market; it seems to be becoming very, from an up close view, it appears to be unstable. At least momentarily. We're getting into where we see these longer wicks on these candles, more volatility in this area, and then we'll break into a really good strong trend, and back into that strong trend, and then back into that strong trend. So I'm really waiting to see what this market does next. especially, before I form an opinion on what I think it will do next. I need to see the chart actually set up for that. I mean, it appears to be potentially on its way. I'll say that without saying too much, without giving my opinion on this. But again, I need to see everything else at the same time moving in order to make a decision. So we've had this negative event on the indicator where %D, this green line, has come down below the halfway mark, which on this indicator is at the 60. So when this pops back up again, more than likely it's going to come back into support one more time, and then we may see a minor rally or a continuation of this trend to the upside. So I want to see how far this indicator actually goes. I can see that it's making a lower low than this low here. So I'm watching this low on the chart here. I can already see that we're going to be low, higher, low on the chart. It looks like we're going to be low, higher, low on the indicator as well. I'm watching to see if it's going to make a lower low on the indicator while making a higher low on the chart. If that happens, then I'll be looking to sell this if everything else is moving in favor. If these other time frame charts are moving in favor of a sell, and that's trading the more immediate time frames. The one in the 5. However, again, I did say that I'm looking to trade the 15. So if I'm trading the 15, it's most likely going to be better for me to see this 15 pullback, which could be a while. Honestly, the 15 pulling back could drop the rest of these, which means that, you know, there could be less momentum to the upside on this day. And so, you know, I'll have to make a decision. Do I want to trade the downtrend, or do I want to get in sync with the overall trend that we've been seeing? And so, it's 9 minutes after the top of the hour. And something that I'll keep in mind is that in binary options with my broker, the Bitcoin trades are, the expiries are an hour. They're an hour apart, so each trade lasts an hour. So what that tells me is that I may want to wait until 10:30, 10:40 even. You know, I may be in a position where I'm waiting that long to see this market continue back to the upside, and I'm willing to wait that long for a good signal. There's really, I really don't see any need to short this market when there is so much upside growth. So don't really want to trade against the trend, although I can still, you know, catch some pips and catch some action. You know, I can make some quick profit in the other direction. I think it's going to be more profitable to trade it to the upside. So I'm just watching this for now. By the way, if you'd like, I have a signal group on Facebook and Telegram. It's only $47 a month. You can get signals in the Bitcoin market, binary option, or CFD Forex. That's only $47 a month, and if you're interested, just send me a quick message, free signals, on Facebook, and I'll send you more information. And once you get the details, we can go from there. So I'm just being patient at this point because I just want to get the right entry. It's really, what it boils down to. Being patient and timing the entry. Now I'm seeing that my 15-minute has crossed through on the indicator, showing a bit of downside momentum. The 30-minute is backed up. It's almost flat here in this in this area. So it's sort of giving permission to the 15-minute chart to move in that direction. And that doesn't mean it's ready. This could be the beginning, but at the same time, I really want to see these other 3 charts agreeing with that. Right now, I don't see it. And one thing that I've learned is it's much more profitable not to get ahead of the market, because getting ahead of the market is sort of like trading an opinion. If it's not 100% clear that the market maybe has a reversal, if it's not 100% clear that the market is changing directions, then there's no need to trade that decision, because I don't decide what direction this market goes in. The market decides what direction I go in. So just want to get a bigger view of the 1-minute chart. With it minimized like this, zoomed in, basically it looks like a pretty big move. We've gone from about the 18,940 to the 18,730. We are making a low equivalent to this low that I was watching. So now here's a possible entry. But with that 15-minute hanging down like that, I don't want to get ahead of this market. It could be setting up to reverse. So I'm going to let it pop up. I'm going to see how high it pops up. Then I'm going to let it pull back. If it holds support when it pulls back, then I'll buy it. If support doesn't hold and it continues on to the downside. If support doesn't hold, if I see, also if I see these other charts saying sell when it pops up, if they're saying sell to a stronger degree, then I would potentially consider entering it there or on the next pullback, the next pop-up. So it's about 20 after the hour now. I'll watch it for, however long it takes, but let's just say this will take maybe 20 minutes. So I'm just going to keep that 20-minute mark in mind. This job may take about 20 minutes to do. Right now, what I'm seeing on this chart is the 5 minute is flat. That means we're here with a possible reversal, and that would actually be agreeing with the 15 and 30. Everything is pretty much either ready to reverse or ready to drop or ready to go higher. It's right there at that point. So we've popped up, and we are either going to head lower. This is saying lower. This is saying lower. This is saying not much longer until we're heading lower. And then this one's coming down into this level. This one's coming down into this level. So if these cross, then I could see it even stronger. Clearly we see on this chart that we have been moving to the downside. But we have upside slope here, meaning this is just coming into support. It's going to bounce off of this. The 5 minute is up. So I'm going to end this video, and more than likely I may come back and check this in an hour. I mean, I could catch the turning point, but catching a turning point, you know, it's not really necessary. You know, I can let it break out even more to confirm on these higher time frame charts we're heading lower. And once it retests and confirms, okay, we're going to move to the downside even more, that's when I would enter. So I'm going to end this video. Thank you for listening, for watching, liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting. If you have any questions about trading or the Bitcoin market, I'd be happy to help you with that. Also, don't forget, if you like signals in this market, inbox me on Facebook, only $47 a month. And I will see you in the next video.